Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. It's fantastic to see everybody, hear everybody, sense everybody.
You can see them?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Like all of them?
Most of them.
Oh, man.
Mostly.
You don't get stage fright? Like,
nope, I'm over it.
Well, I'm not going to say how many people listen to this. That you can see right now.
All 10 of them. And I can see everyone. And you need to stop what you're doing right now. You need to stop. You need to stop what you're doing.
Put your hands on the table.
Because I'm about to ruin.
Where we can see them.
Alex Navarro, how are you? I see you.
I see you too.
Thank you very much.
I'm looking right at you.
He's
buddy.
staring right at me. Can't escape the gaze, the Navarro gaze. It's paralyzing. Brad Shoemaker, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm fine. Good. Hello.
Speaking of seeing things, we're going to get into our banter here in just a second. I'm going to run down the show because we've got a lot to get to, and we're going to probably keep it tight, slow and tight at the top here because we're going to get to Hi-Fi Rush Season, A Letter to the Future, Dead Space, that remake, Hitman, the world's, you know what it is, Freelancer mode, Forspoken, GoldenEye, and some others, including Like a Dragon Ishin. Maybe a little surprise in there if you like mobile games ported to your Xbox. We'll get into that. But before we do, let me say this. I had my moment finally. I've been waiting for it.
All your life.
Almost 2 decades, which is not almost all my life, unfortunately or fortunately. But thank you.
You've been waiting for this moment all your life. Come on, it's Phil Collins. Let's just
I got it.
Okay.
I finally had my moment where I had a computer screen just churning through data in a way you just don't see unless you're in a movie and some hackers going through it, just generating data in a way, and I was waiting for it to stop. So it was just doing one of those things where it's just like just all this data on the screen. Unfortunately, it didn't lead to anything productive, but I definitely had a moment where I was like, oh, I see a woman in red, you know.
I've been waiting for this data all my life.
Oh boy.
I've said it many times. I live for the moment when you set up a big job on a computer and press the button and watch it.
Yes.
Like just watching, like compiling software or something and just watching it fly by.
It was spitting out chunks from a Ramblecast in 4-bit chunks at a time, looking for the chunk to match the Q chunk I needed to match it up to. So it's just basically hex code, just like kind of just dropping down on the screen, like, and I had it stop when it matched the part to it. But I'll tell you what, those files are really big. And so eventually I just went and I recorded a 1-second podcast with one marker in it. And then it wasn't as fun. But
I'll tell you what, man, I don't even see the code anymore.
Yeah.
All I see is food story. Story about Vinny's son. Alex has a problem with his upstairs neighbor.
Yes. What's the deal with AI and ever loving sitcoms?
Oh, dude. So did you watch any of this?
I did. You said watch this, and so I watched it.
There is this thing that I am now vaguely obsessed with, and I'm sure that will be short-lived because at a certain point it does start to repeat itself a little bit. But there is this thing on Twitch now called Watch Me Forever. It is just twitch.com/ or twitch.tv/Watch Me Forever. And it is an AI-generated sitcom that never ends.
It's basically Seinfeld.
It
is basically Seinfeld. Yeah, it is four characters who are very much modeled after Seinfeld characters. There is an interstitial bit where the main character is doing stand-up. There are a bunch of apartment scenes where they are talking about whatever, like literally nothing. And then every once in a while, it cuts to a TV guide channel with auto-generated TV shows you could be watching.
I've only watched pre-saved clips of this thing so far. I just pulled up the live channel for the first time. This thing's doing very well. It's got like 4,500 viewers.
There was like 1,100 last night. It is picking up steam.
It is Seinfeld by way of obviously AI and maybe like PlayStation 1 / Comanche. It's pretty chewy graphics. It's it's all computer generated.
Very very low poly. Yeah.
It's grungy in a way I kind of like, but it's kind of fascinating, terrifying, and it is extremely dumb.
It feels like it is at the very least in the spirit of something like a Salty Bet or a like the wrestling machinima stuff I used to watch, where there is an audience there that is as much for the ways it wigs out as it is for the actual content of what is going on.
Oh yeah, you're watching for the car crashes.
Yeah, and there are a lot of like animation car crashes and jokes that just don't even have punchlines, laugh tracks that appear where they should not.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the joy of it. Is in sifting through all of that and trying to figure out like where the comedy is supposed to be.
It's probably the most sitcom TV I've watched in a while.
Yeah.
And I only watched about 10 minutes of it, but yeah,
I understand that AI stuff is incredibly fraught these days, especially with the AI generated art stuff, and I totally get people's trepidation around that stuff. I have it too. But if AI stuff, like if GPT was being used for more just weirdo experiments that aren't intended to replace like actual man labor, and instead are just like, here is this weird thing this computer brain is spitting out, I would be way more behind it. Like, this is the kind of thing I want more of. I will say this much. I am very much prepared for the revelation that this technology is being used to teach AI how to tell jokes so that when those robot dogs approach you, you're disarmed before they shoot you.
I could see it. I'm sure that's there.
I'm just kind of trying to come up with the worst case scenario, and that's what I've come to so far.
Yeah. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Do not let a robot dog approach you. That is
and
my advice.
Don't let it get to the punchline.
What about a robot cat?
No, definitely not a robot
No?
cat. No.
I don't know, that robot cat seems pretty friendly.
They're more climby than the other ones. They can get to you.
I was talking to you guys about this before the show, and people who know about the black box AI stuff more than I do can help me out. But I was wondering if like stuff like Midjourney and some of those art generators could track sources when it compiles an image to spit you out an XML or a list of references that it used in generating a new image. And I wonder if that would help at all with trying to source from where it's getting all of its material from. Maybe transparency would be nice, in some of that stuff. I feel like that's some of the issue I have with those things.
I think some of that lack of transparency is very much by design.
It's a liability nightmare,
so.
But
Yeah.
I'm just saying I would like to know what artist is being scraped up.
Yes.
I think the thing they're doing now is just saying, here is the data set this was trained on, and we absolutely do have an index of.
But it's so, how do you even parse that? 50 terabytes of data.
Oh, yeah. This is based on watching people on Twitter, artists on Twitter, talking about that class action lawsuit that's brewing. But basically there was some method for people to very easily be able to reference their work against the data set and just see if any of their images were used in the giant mass of images that the thing was trained on.
Can you use like a reverse lookup, or was it TinEye and just kind of go against the data set? Listen, I don't know all that much about it. I've tried to do some homework on it, and yeah, I've used it to do some goofy stuff as well. I like making the computer do dumb things.
Yes. But also at what cost?
At what cost? I don't know. Nobody knows for real.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody who's a teacher, and they were basically that's all they were talking about at a conference recently was, well, do we then use this to help find the stuff that is used by this? And it was like this. He said by the time he was done, he never wanted to hear about GPT again.
I think that's fair.
Like just spiraling weird. Like, do you use this technology to help find people who have used this technology? And it was like this snake eating its own tail.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot to talk about. Should we jump into it?
We should.
We should before we're put out of a job. Like I said, make a podcast that it's just two people talking at each other.
I tried to give you an escape. I threw out that robot cat thing. Nobody took the bait.
How about this?
That was your out.
What if you had a robot cat that could keep the beats?
Oh yeah, there we go.
Now we're talking.
We got a surprise drop. Always the most fun drops. And speaking of drops, there's your second segue. Yes,
just gonna keep saying it. The surprise announcement / release remains the best flex. that a developer can do.
When
Also-
the game is good.
Well, yeah.
Which
Even
are-
if it's not, I'm going to say making a whole ass video game, getting it to market with all of the hurdles and roadblocks that entails without anybody knowing about it, even if the game is not great, still a feat unto itself.
It is a feat. I just feel like a lot of the air gets sucked out when it's like, oh, now I've learned about this and I wish I hadn't.
Yeah, sure. Or if it's just okay, you know. It's
Yes.
like, it's like, okay, it's cool that they did that, and then I tried the game and it was like, okay, whatever. But
Hi-Fi Rush
that's not Hi-Fi Rush.
is
Hi-Fi
good.
Rush.
It's
That's
good.
That's not the case here. Also, boy, that podcast last week sounded dumb by the time it went up.
Nah,
us-
we nailed it.
Going like, oh, this name Hi-Fi Rush seems to have leaked. That might be a thing they're going to talk about. And then by the time that podcast was up, people had played halfway through the game.
We did manage to get at least knowledge of the fact that it was in fact being announced at the thing. We
And
did
Tango
get the
GameWorks.
Tango thing was
Yeah.
actually there, but that's all we got.
So Hi-Fi Rush kind of dropped and announced during the Xbox Bethesda showcase last week.
The developer direct.
The develop is that? Is that what it is? _ direct.
I've straight up seen people like mad that they use the term direct.
Because of Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Like,
a little.
I mean,
I listen.
I get it. Maybe it's a little opportunistic, but I don't think they have a trademark on the word direct or anything.
No, they do not.
It's on Game Pass. It's $30 if you want to get down with it there. So obviously on the Xbox, and there's a PC version for it. It's a rhythm game where it's a rhythm action game.
It's a rhythm character action game. It is
Yeah.
a straight up, I would say it's a straight up XXY game, except do you get more combos later? Because in the combo list, there is no, the classic square triangle God of War combo.
You do get more combos as you go along.
Okay, I'm not super far into it, but when you start the game, there is no light heavy combo, which is the hallmark of those games. Which I thought was kind of funny.
So the thing with this is that, yes, it is primarily just X, Y as your attack buttons, but the way that the combos are structured very much involve like, hey, you leave a beat here because there's a strong attack. Because again, everything in this game is on a beat. It is a rhythm action game. And so when you are chaining together your attacks, there's an extra beat when you do a heavy attack versus when you do a light one. And so like the combos also involve like little pauses, rests in the music. In addition to the actual just combo system.
It feels like such a natural fit for a rhythm mashup that I'm kind of shocked nobody's gotten to it yet. I mean, there may be another one out there, but like, the first-person shooters have been doing it with like Metal Hellsinger and bullets per minute.
I think this feels better than Metal Hellsinger did. There
was a rhythm dungeon crawler whose name escapes me that came out last year. Like other genres have been getting mashed up with rhythm stuff, but like, character action is just so inherently rhythmic already because you're timing out those button taps to do combos anyway. Like it feels so natural to slide that in there. It's kind of awesome.
And they're not doing anything really wild. Like these are all pretty straightforward, like 4/4 rock beats. So like you just kind of have to nail the timing. You don't have to worry about like, thumper style, like trying to figure out like the time signature of something. It's pretty straightforward, but there is a little bit of nuance to it.
It's been leading to a weird situation for me where I keep wanting to wait for a new measure to start before I start a combo. Like it feels weird to crash in halfway through the bar.
I think this game, on the mechanics of it, does do something interesting, which is it's not necessarily penalizing you for missing the beat. It is only rewarding you for hitting the beat. Everything kind of is on the rhythm anyway, and the closer you are to hitting it, the more combo meter you build up, and the better you do. But the more
damage you do.
Yeah, the character's gonna hit that other character on the rhythm beat anyway. Because the neat thing is they commit to the bit.
Yes,
this entire world and everything in it is syncopated, is just on that 4/4 beat. You're even to the character's run animation, which is kind of awesome. Like this game has that style thing that we have talked about going on. It's very reminiscent to me of an Into the Spider-Verse in terms of its animation and production value.
This is like the best cell shading I have ever seen in a game. Like it's crazy. Like you kind of can't tell you're looking at a video game.
The cell shading is really good, but also the animation, like the timing of like the sight gags and pratfalls and stuff is all really well done and actually pretty funny.
And the camera angles and like the direction of it.
Thing that has shocked me the most about it coming in here to talk about it is not that it works mechanically, but that it's like it almost feels like it's likable against the odds.
Totally.
In some ways, like something about like, the soundtrack and the attitude, like I feel like in a like Gladys and Claptrap world, like sardonic robots, like a lot of stuff in this could have been done poorly and been grating, but like everything about it is just super charming.
The bosses are good too, like the weird corporate people that they put you up against. Like those could have been like just really boring generic caricatures of bad bosses, but like they actually have some fun with it.
Yeah, and your main character Chai is relentlessly positive, but in a way that isn't cloying.
But in kind of just like a blithering, goofy way, as opposed to like I'm an annoying asshole kind of way.
You call him a himbo, it's okay.
Yeah, he is one, totally.
But it's kind of fun because the game is pretty self-aware in that sense, and it's not necessarily earnest, but it's committing to the bet. It is aware.
It's just kind of fun-loving.
It's not trying to make you feel good. It's just that this Chai is just kind of doofy.
Yeah.
And Chai got his iPod smashed into his chest, and
like
a robotic.
He's the Tony Stark of 2002 music technology,
and is just like kind of cool with that, all right with that, and just is like, yeah whatever, all right. I guess we're moving on.
This is not even. I've said this before, and this is not even really a beef with the game. I don't have much of one, really, honestly, and especially I like a lot of these bands. It is still very funny to me that this soundtrack is entirely made up of stuff that like your cool uncle might have listened to back in 2003. Like it's Zwan, it's The Prodigy, it's 2 Nine Inch Nails songs, like. And I understand people listen to music from all different eras, but it really seems compacted to a very particular period when the people who made this game were listening to a lot of music, and that was about 15, 20 years ago.
My only beef so far with it, and it's mitigated by the production value of it, is it's a little samey for me. Like the platforming, and then the arena battles, and then the kind of platforming. You get more moves, you get the grappling hook, you get to do more stuff. It kind of fleshes out as you go. And like I said, the production value and the pace of it kind of mitigate a lot of that because it does keep moving. But you do just wind up platforming a bit and then getting in an enclosed arena to fight some baddies and then kind of move on from there.
I'm thinking about starting it over on very hard. Because it is a game that emphasizes mastering its mechanics so much that, and yes, I have the same concern. I'm surely not as far in as you are, but I had the same concern you did of like, these games had their time in the PS2 era, like character action, even when there's a lot of bombast going on around it, like it's just kind of the same thing with maybe some more combos for 15 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was thinking like, maybe if I made it like super hard, so I have to get really good at the timing of the rhythm stuff, it'll be more like mechanically interesting the whole way through. That is an experiment that may not go well. We'll see. But
they do add things like parries and other aspects to the combat as time kind of goes along. And obviously you gain new combos and special abilities and stuff. I mean, the whole thing feels like, and I don't mean this in a derisive way whatsoever, this feels like a really good PS2/GameCube game from like the early 2000s.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like high fidelity version of that.
Yeah. This came out with Beautiful Joe somehow.
Yes, it's one of the Capcom 5. Absolutely.
It's the missing one, right?
Yeah.
They finally got it out there. It is
Shinji Mikami, I mean, it does have that pedigree.
I'm just glad. I'm just happy for Tango Gameworks to get a win. I mean,
the Evil Within weren't losses. They just didn't do that well.
Like people like 2 a good bit. I did not care for the first Evil Within much at all. 2 definitely has its defenders, and like I didn't think Ghostwire Tokyo was terrible. They don't make bad games, but they haven't had anything that has just been a resounding success. I forgot Ghostwire was a Tango game. That's right. It's not even a year ago.
Yeah.
But nothing they've put out has hit like this, because this thing just took off like a rocket ship. Like people are Like, I've seen a surprising number of people go like, wow, they just dropped the game of the year out of nowhere.
I mean,
like,
putting it on Game Pass also probably is helping their cause as well, because that just gives everyone who has that service an instant access to it.
Yeah, but apparently I read it's selling super well on Steam as well. So it's
good.
It's like it's kind of hitting across the board. It's kind of awesome to see something just come out of nowhere and catch on like this with this many people.
There's not a lot of games with this kind of vibe that hit mainstream. It's more in the indie space with just a really positive, that Jet Set Radio kind of vibe. That's just like, like kind of you turn it on, you're happy, and you just go.
Well, it's like you said. The thing is, it's more that just major studios don't make games like this anymore.
Yeah,
smaller studios do, but like the big AAA studios are not invested in this kind of game, generally speaking. But the one thing I think we're starting to learn is that if you are at one of these studios that got bought by Microsoft and you have something germinating in the background, they'll throw that shit on Game Pass and it'll probably do okay.
Yeah, like we've talked about it before. This is 1,000% the type of shit that Microsoft just needs to be funding constantly.
Yeah.
Like, this is the Netflix thing, right? Of we just dropped a season of a show you've never heard of on a Friday night, and everybody's watching it by Monday morning because it rules, right?
Yes,
like they've got
Pentiment and
yes. They've got
Grounded.
extremely deep pockets and a nice big stable of development talent, and they should just be doing experiments constantly.
But I could not think of this Friday, the Friday past. Out of the games I was playing, the whiplash from Forspoken to this is severe. Like the tonal difference, the color
difference. Holy shit, man!
Even Dead Space. This probably has more in common with Hitman, just in terms of like the vibe I get. But yeah, it's just refreshing. It's a kind of a refreshing game. Nothing quite like it. With all these pieces and production value like it out there in the space. So I'm glad for them, and it doesn't hurt that it just kind of dropped without any lead up. And it worked, because we didn't have months to be disappointed or build up anything.
This might now be the gold standard for, I'm sorry, I refuse to use the term shadow drop. I'm coining my own competing term for whatever this phenomenon is. Anyway, I think this is probably the gold standard of those, right? I'm trying to think of it. Well, actually, I just remembered Tetris 99, and now that's a hard call. Like, in the pantheon of games that have been announced during a live stream from a publisher and then released on the spot, it's this and Tetris 99.
You guys have a better memory than I do, but didn't one of the consoles release at price announcement?
The Saturn.
Okay.
The Saturn famously came out on the spot at E3 for way too much money and basically tanked Sega. I mean, that's okay. That's a little harsh, but like it was kind of the beginning of the end of Sega as a hardware company.
I think we can all agree it did not go according to plan.
No. Fallout Shelter.
Oh yeah,
I'm trying to think. There are not a ton of examples of this happening. And
hang on,
awesome.
I think there's a Giant Bomb wiki for this sort of thing.
Is there? I feel like I've looked for that page and maybe couldn't find. I think there is. I don't know what the.
I think I saw Marino tweeting about it.
You're right.
Just the other day, saying they added some games because some people came up with some.
I think you're right. He did make that wiki page, and I think I may have also tweeted at him in the past about it.
Trying to find the page now.
But Hi-Fi Rush, very positive. My kids love it. They even said the graphics look awesome in it. And so they're pretty harsh critics graphically these days. They can call it. So
the game feels like, I started to say miraculous, which is way too hyperbolic for what I'm trying to get at. Like improbable maybe is the right word, of just like for them to walk the high wire of getting this thing out without anybody knowing about it other than the name getting out. And then for every element of it to be as good as it is, and like not really whiff on any one aspect, visuals, the attitude and writing, the mechanics, it's just like, it's just kind of firing on all cylinders. Like it's kind of amazing that this thing just came together as like tightly as it did.
Okay, I have the complete list in front of me.
What is that page called? I need to know.
It is called Announced and Released on the Same Day.
Oh, right. That's my turn. That's the one I'm going with.
Okay. The games on this list include ActRaiser Renaissance.
Oh, God, right.
Apex Legends. That's a big one.
Well, yeah, that one's tough for me because I went to that event and had it sprung on us in that auditorium where we went to play it. So I knew about it before it came out. But yes, that is absolutely maybe the best one now that I think about it.
Candy Creeps?
I don't know.
Castlevania Advance Collection?
Okay.
Dirt Rally, the early access. Drainus?
I'm sorry.
Drainus?
Sorry, don't keep
sorry,
saying.
no, we're out. We're out.
Drainus?
I gotta run to the Smart and Final and grab another bottle of Drainus.
Entwined?
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Fallout Shelter, which we mentioned. Good Job?
Oh,
right.
yeah, that game's good. That game's
Good Job's
good.
great.
Yeah.
Good Job is great.
Hi-Fi Rush. NES Remix?
Man, yeah. And NES Remix is also great.
Shady Part of Me?
Okay.
Stretch Mo?
Oh, Stretch Mo, you're no push Mo.
Super Kirby Clash?
Okay.
Tetris 99? And Unravel 2.
Okay.
Right, yeah, that's right. Okay. I'm going to say
Hi-Fi Rush, definitely up there.
Yeah.
Apex, Hi-Fi Rush, and Tetris 99 are the standouts.
That's what I would say as well.
Kind of an honorable mention to NES Remix.
And so I want to clarify here, because while I really like Hi-Fi Rush, I'm going to say I'm probably much more impressed with it than I love it. Like, I think it's a great game.
Well,
I like,
sure.
I don't know if I'm going to be like on my top 10 as the number one game or whatever, but I'm very impressed with it. Plus, there's been no lead up, so that's very impressive to me.
I'm just having a lot more fun with it than I was expecting to, and I think it is. I think it is really tightly made, which I greatly appreciate.
I don't want to overblow. Like, do I critically think? Like, if I were to score this game, I'm not sure what I would give it. I'm not like, oh, automatic 5, but I'm just very impressed with what they put out.
I'm gonna say 4 out of 5.
Okay, there you go, nailed it. Fans of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
Hi-Fi Rush available now for $30, also on Game Pass if you subscribe to that Game Pass. Let's take a quick break here. We've got plenty of more games to go. We're going to come back, talk about Season, A Letter to the Future, and a bunch of other stuff. We had a big release week last week and this week. Stick around. And now we take a slightly less frenetic tonal shift from Hi-Fi Rush to Season, A Letter to the Future, a game I have played at this point not too much of, a couple hours in.
That's about where I am too, a couple hours.
Okay, as someone with a terrible memory,
yes,
there's actually something haunting about this game that kind of affects me in a way. The setup for this game, and I don't know if this winds up playing out or not, but the initial setup is you're in some kind of land, weird Earth-like place. I don't know what time frame this is.
I would say this is in the very distant future, if I had to guess.
It's like kind of hard to tell. It's not sci-fi. It's one of those, could be in the distant future, but also kind of looks like the past.
I mean, having played Pentiment fairly recently, it has very much the vibe of society that has formed in the bones of a lost civilization.
It does have that vibe.
Yeah.
There is like a prophecy that the season, quote unquote, which sounds to me, just read that as in this game's parlance, the era they are in, is going to come to a close. You have taken it upon yourself to kind of chronicle this current season, this current era, and leave your village, of which no one has left before that you know of, or at least the generation before.
In generational memory.
Yeah. And so your dad's kind of out of the picture, having been missing. Your mom, in the very initial parts of the game, and this is part of the weirdness of it, puts basically memories into a pot that distill down into a crystal that you then are supposed to wear around your neck. This is kind of what I love too. To stop, what is it? Memory overload?
There's the dreaming sickness, which is kind of, I think, its own thing. But yes, there is an idea that it's a protective talisman that you wear around your neck that is designed to use your memories to protect you while you are out in the world. Because I guess in the village, most of the things that befall people who are out in the world can't really happen there, or don't. But when you're out there, like, there's nothing protecting you. So it's designed to keep you safe.
And so some of what I've gotten so far of in this world in the initial parts are something. There was a war. That's pretty clear. There was a war somewhere.
There's a war that they have no idea how it ended because they were so far removed from it.
But also there's this like affliction where from the very little bits I can pick up so far, like too much going on in your brain. And this like doctor had come to this village to be like, you gotta sort it out, and you gotta stop think. I forget what they call it, but it's like, do you remember?
There's
Alex?
also like a time sickness too that I think it has. They talk about where it's like, sometimes like 10 seconds feels like an hour, sometimes a day feels like a minute. It's hard to discern. I mean, I think that's probably like some kind of metaphor for something like Alzheimer's, but.
And so this doctor was able to come up with therapies and methods to alleviate some of it. This Dr. Fumio also succumbed to the dream sickness. And so you're going out beyond the walls of this safe haven, this little town, to go take a camera and an audio recorder and your sketchbook to go basically chronicle what is to be chronicled, what you think, what the player thinks is important in this timeline. And to do that, you can take pictures of things, which will sometimes trigger insight from the character. You can record things using an audio recorder, which again, some of them you just collect if you want to just record anything. Some of them will trigger moments or insight from the character. And sometimes the character will just sketch something if you interact with it in their book. And so you go around and you kind of just stop at these set pieces and do your business and then put them in your journal in a really kind of satisfying way.
Yes.
You get to arrange them in your scrapbook. The things you want to put in there, the pictures you want to put in, you can put in until you've filled it out. And then sometimes you'll get a little more insights into the events that happen there if you have triggered enough things or unlocked it, or you can just kind of move on. If you want.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are there objectives, or can you just kind of
the objective is
do
just
as much
kind
or
of
as little as you want?
It's just to kind of to move forward, to keep exploring. But like the there are certain things on, like, whenever you come to a new area, there are certain things on that are interactable that are locked initially, and the only way to unlock them is to get enough keepsakes from the area you're in. And that can be anything. It can be photos, it can be auto recordings, it can be things that you pick up and find, like notes people left, that kind of stuff. As long as you find enough of those things in each area, you can unlock those. Like, this is not a game that is about like action in any particular way. It is a game that seems like it is very much about vibes. It is about, like, the sort of peace and solitude of biking through these like pretty vistas, and then just periodically stopping to take in like the more significant set pieces.
It's got a fairly somber tone, at least the parts that I've gotten up to, because your character is pretty thoughtful and introspective in terms of what is their place in the world. Like, how does this?
It's somber without being like relentlessly depressing. Though,
no.
At
It's
least
not
in what I've
depressing.
played so far,
it's actually kind of uplifting in a way of like, we should gather these memories. And the thing that's actually really touching is the game opens with someone, you don't know who it is, opening this book that says, starts with, who are you, right? Because that's the first thing your character writes. I don't know who's reading this, and I don't know who it is. And the game opens with that. And it's like a really interesting way to pull it back into this character's journey, which is, you are writing this. I mean, the name of the game is A Letter to the Future, right? You are writing this book for somebody else to look at in the future.
Yeah.
And you're going on this weird journey. It's weirder than I thought.
Yes.
I thought it was going to be like biking around Europe and taking pictures. It is not that.
A year in Europe.
Yeah, it is not that. You're kind of passing by sci-fi-ish elements in a
but
kind
also
of an
sometimes
interesting
stuff
way.
that feels very modern. Like, the first area you kind of get into out of the village is just like, hey, there's a river or an ocean, and then there's a bunch of like, shipping cranes and other things that, like, obviously there was some old industrial stuff there, which doesn't feel particularly futuristic, just feels like pieces of the society we knew from a long time ago.
Yeah, but then along the way, you're collecting notes that are like, I'm fleeing this war, or I'm coming down with the memory sickness or the dream sickness. And
there's that elder lady who tells you about like the war, and also like there was a period where a bunch of people lived on cruise ships out on the water and formed their own little micro societies on those boats.
Yeah, it's kind of got me in its fiction. Like,
there's something there.
I want to know what's going on in there. And I also like the pace of it. you ride this bicycle. It's got this really kind of neat, if not throwaway mechanic, where when you get on the bike, you have to pump the left and right triggers like 4 times just to get the bike started, to pedal. So you're like, and then you kind of just cruise for a little bit. But you kind of take your bike and you get off of it and you can walk around, record stuff, and at your leisure, fill in your book, and then kind of get back on your bike and go. And the pressure is fairly off. It's not.
Yeah. It's not a game where it feels like there is anything really pressing on you.
Yeah.
Like it is very much about how you want to take in the spaces and how you want to progress. And I do think the art is very nice. Like I think the vistas they have created for you to bike around, it is hitting the note I want, which is to say that like it has that feel of like you are in a completely abandoned place, but that nature is everywhere and there is just like a lot to drink in those environments, which I appreciate.
I hope this sticks the landing on
Me
whatever
too.
it's trying to do.
They're setting up some really cool things.
Yeah, so I hope it follows through. It's Season, A Letter to the Future. It's out now as the time of this recording, available on PlayStation's and the PC, $30 out there. And I'm going to say so far, I wasn't really looking forward to this one as much as probably I should have, given what the game actually is. I thought it was going to be a little more in the, like I said, just got to get on your bike around Europe and take some pictures and memeries. It is not that. No, it's deeper.
A gap year in the pre-apocalypse.
Or pre. I don't know. Yeah.
Post and pre, maybe from the sound of it. I don't know. I had intended to play this, and then like 3 other things happened this week. Some expected, some not, that I played instead. Such as yes. What is next?
Dead Space.
Dead Space.
Okay. So I'm going to be honest here. There was a point last week where we were talking about the games coming up, and I was like, like Dead Space, like I'm fairly good on Dead Space.
We did just watch Abby play through it like a couple of years ago.
I'm pretty good on Dead Space. I'm excited for this release, but I'm not champing at the bit for it. And then once I started playing it, I was like, oh, this is pretty good Dead Space.
They've done a good job on this thing.
Interesting, because I don't want this to sound like I'm down on the game at all, but I kind of had the opposite experience of I was like dying for this thing. Especially coming out of Callisto Protocol, which is like good, but not quite all there.
Flawed, let's say.
Yeah. And I was just like, and like the developers had said a lot of stuff about things they were changing in this game to make it more modern. And then I got my hands on it and I'm like, I could kind of still see the 360 underneath all of this. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
Like it is not fundamentally a different game.
No, but I think it feels modern.
Yeah.
And, I mean, as much as it could in corridor survival horror shooter.
That's part of it. It's like the environments are pretty limited because those consoles couldn't handle bigger levels at the time, and like I can't sit here and say like, oh, they reused cutscene assets or whatever. There are some spots like some of the cutscenes feel dated in a way that I can't I can't quite put my finger on, just like little animation quirks and stuff like that. And like some of the menus also, like it just it's like, okay, yes, this is a 15-year-old game, and like it sure as hell looks better.
Oh yes, that's where the real work went in.
And there are changes to enemy spawns and stuff like that, but I'm still enjoying. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still enjoying it quite a bit. But it kind of brought me back down to earth a little bit of like, this is not a full remake. Like it is a like very nice, like
it's a substantial one, but
it's very nice coat of paint and polish pass on visuals and some mechanics, but still like
it's
still,
shoring up too. Like they've gone and done some work on the. It's not a is this pitched as a remake?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
More than just a remaster.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, that's always a weird fuzzy gray area.
Yeah. That's why I asked.
I think it's yeah. I mean, it's definitely more remake than remaster. I think just based on the level of changes to the graphics alone.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about it, though, I went into it thinking just like. It's like, I played all the Dead Space games. It's like, you've dismembered one necromorph, you've dismembered them all, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I was like shocked how terrifying it still feels. Again, coming off of Callisto, which is a game that looks much more modern and realistic and like you would think would be scarier. But for some reason, this game I feel like that is kind of identifiably a game from 2 generations ago, still like freaking me out more than Callisto did.
I think I like the. No, I mean, I guess it's fair to compare them. There's so much shared DNA.
Is.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think what was it? Something like 30 of the developers on Callisto worked on the first Dead Space or something and including the head of the studio. It's like, yeah.
I think I just like what Dead Space. The whole conceit of Dead Space a little more with this miner who's supposed to be picking up all these tools and using them to make his way through the Ishimura. I think I just like the whole conceit a little more. Even though Callisto is very similar in a lot of ways.
I mean, they definitely went for the kind of blue collar everyman thrust into this space horror nightmare again.
Yeah,
except he's a trucker in Callisto instead of an engineer.
Right, but I like the suit. I like Isaac's whole stomping.
I always really liked the motif of like these are mostly all like starship engineering tools that you are repurposing as weapons, except when you picked up this rifle off guard, but still. Like the sound design is great. Like all those menu and door sounds and like the pickup sound. The sound of picking up a drop, like credits or ammo or whatever, is like maybe the best pickup sound I've ever heard. It's so satisfying.
I think for me also, knowing that it's a game I have mostly gone through, though TBD on the ending and where things go, and if they do a Dead Space 2 again, like what happens there, I'm moving through it faster than I normally would, like a game like Callisto, where I'm checking every single corner for every node or every power-up, because I kind of just want to get through it to the end, and I'm not trying to soak up every tiny corner. Also, I get lost in that game quite a bit. There's a lot of dark spaces, and I think you mentioned this on the stream. I feel like I'm dumping ammo because of the spawns coming in at random places. I'm just, wasting. But when I run around, it seems like things will respawn sometimes, and I'm dropping ammo.
That was one of the big things they pitched for this, was like kind of AI director style, like, oh, the enemy spawns are varied and it'll dynamically. Like I was talking to Patrick about playing this game. I felt vindicated. He apparently, I mean, maybe a lot of survival horror fans do this. He does the same thing I do of like, oh, that encounter didn't go as well as it could have. I feel like I wasted too much ammo on that. I'm gonna reload the checkpoint and do it better this time. And he said he did a bunch of that in this, and like the encounters were different every time, where they were spawning around him and stuff like that. So I haven't been doing a lot of that here, so I haven't seen it myself. But I think the reason that this is still freaking me out more is that the necromorphs just get the fuck up in your face all the time. And they're also very willing to just spawn them right behind you where you can't see them until they hit you and stuff like that. Like Callisto's got that weird boxing game mechanic where most of the enemies are humanoid to accommodate this kind of melee combat, and they generally run up to you and then stop. They
square up, yes.
They run up to you and do the action movie thing of the goon sort of standing there waiting for the hero to do something.
Yep.
And that's to accommodate this, kind of give and take, dodging, countering, melee stuff that they do, which is like a fun mechanic, but going back to this makes me realize it kind of does diffuse a lot of the tension of those fights, because you know that you're going to have a second to kind of get yourself ready to respond. Versus like the necromorphs just get on you.
I mean, also you can like slice their legs off with the gun. So there's like this push pull of I gotta hit their leg, I gotta hit this guy's leg, and then he kind of collapses on the floor, and then they start crawling towards you. Yeah. And it feels a little more manageable than Callisto did at times, where crowd management feels you have the tools to manage the crowd a little better.
Yeah, it's also been fun. I mean, going back through it, like knowing the story this time and reading the text logs of, the telltale signs of like the marker getting on top of people. But it's also reminded me just how goddamn stupid the backstory of Dead Space is.
Maybe they change it. We haven't gotten to the end. Maybe they pull it away from how bananas it got.
I don't mean that. I'm not even talking about the moon stuff in 3 or whatever, but just the core conceit of like a monolith that turns you into this god awful monster just by being near it for too long or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the real, and again, this is not a criticism. I think it's kind of fun. The fact that a religion sprung up around this, where people want to be turned into these things.
What's the church called? I can't remember.
Is it the Unitologist Church?
Something along those
Isn't it-
lines.
isn't it
maybe.
Unitology? Isn't that the? Yes, Unitology is the
Okay.
name of the religion. But it's like, fucking people look at these things and aspire to become the. Like, what?
That's
Listen, people are into some wild shit.
I guess.
I've heard weirder real life stuff about ascension and all of those things. I hope they change a little bit in the ending, just a little bit to tweak it. It might be fun to have a little different thing. And if they do move forward, to be able to be freed from having to follow in the tracks of 2 and 3.
That is the ultimate question of this thing to me. It's like, it's cool they did this, and I'm happy to play through it, but it's like, does this kick off a new era for Dead Space is the real question.
I hope so.
You put all this work into this engine.
They can't just remake Dead Space 2, I don't think. Like, they can't do that again. Like, this has to be a, like, light touch method of seeing if there's still appetite for this, and then if there is, like, they need to make a whole new game after this. Like, whether that happens or not, who can say? But
so this is available across the board here on your PlayStation 5, your Xbox Series X and S, and the PC. It's $70 on the consoles, $60 on the PC.
Still not a fan of the Isaac redesign, but whatever.
He just looks like a guy.
Yeah, that guy.
He's just a guy.
I mean, I guess it fits with this guy is just a laborer on this ship that gets thrust into some shit.
Original Dead Space is on Game Pass, right?
It must be. I mean, it's part of EA Play, so.
And then this is not, right?
No, I don't think so.
Because in my database, the way I denote Game Pass games is by game name.
Mm-hmm.
So Dead Space. When you name your game the same exact name, it causes database problems, let's just say. But that's the way Microsoft wants to give out their Game Pass feed.
I think they are probably still doing the limited time trial stuff on EA Play.
For EA Play? Okay. All right. Dead Space, that is out now. Part of last week's big release week. Another thing that released last week on Friday was the Freelancer mode for Hitman, something that was pushed back, announced a while ago, pushed back, but is now here. Hitman's Freelancer mode, the mode in which you basically take what feels like an endless runs of mission. Is not endless, but it feels like an endless run of missions, and in portions that culminate in a hunt for a what was the one in Berlin, right? We had to figure out who the targets were in the story mode in Hitman 3. It's a little bit like that, but a little bit more, a little cornier and a little more guess who. Like, they have glasses, they smoke, they wear a hat, they like to read.
It's guess who. It's literally just guess who.
So kind of culminates in that. You do that, and then you get on another string of assassination missions. If you bomb out, you get one more chance to go back in, but the areas that you had previously on your map will be on high alert, meaning that it's going to be harder.
Yeah,
Yes.
for regular missions. If you
regular
fail a
missions.
regular mission, one per set, right? It's not per run, right?
I've
the
never
way-
failed and then finished and then failed again.
Okay, yeah, I haven't either. The way they break it up, I'm not sure if you mentioned. It's like 2 regular missions and then a showdown, and then the next tier is 3 regulars and then a showdown and then 4.
It gets
cool.
on you, man.
Dude, this thing is like bananas hard. Like I have played a lot of Hitman, but holy shit,
It's making me play. It's making me take it more seriously, for better or worse.
You have to, and that's kind of inherent to the design. It's interesting because all the targets are random, just random NPCs, so you can't really use the fun scripted story executions that they spent surely the bulk of the development time on for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's all mechanical stealth. It's not ever scripted story stealth. You know, it's all I'm gonna like fiber wire this person or drop a chandelier on them or poison them. But you can't do the bespoke, I'm going to make them walk the catwalk. That's, the type of stuff that's reserved for the story targets.
Yeah.
So it turns it into much more of like a hard-assed stealth challenge rather than like this stupid stealth playground that the game usually is.
Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed it so far. I'll say my complaint with it, I don't even mind the difficulty. My biggest complaints so far is you bring weapons out of a mission, let's say when you finish it, and you can store them in your safe house, which is very cool. And you can bring those in, but if you lose them in the mission, you lose them for real. But you have them, if you store them, you have them for whenever you want in sequential runs. That's not the same for tools. When you bring out a tool and put it in your safe box, you only have it during that campaign's run.
Yes.
And then you lose them, and I don't like that as much.
So what it actually is, and they don't explain this well at all, I think it was in like a loading screen tooltip or something, it's any item with a rarity level.
Oh, really?
So the items have straight up color coded loot rarity, green, blue, I assume purple, and then like orange. I haven't seen higher rarity items, but yeah, there's a tooltip in there somewhere. You only take items with a rarity level back out of missions. So I haven't looked, but I'm guessing most of the like, fish and golf ball and stuff like that you're picking up in missions.
I don't even mean that. Like, I mean like the C4, right? Like if like
the rubber ducks,
like the rubber ducks and the like proximity explosives, those things. If you put those in your little Pelican case, like you can put those back in the case.
Yeah.
When you fail out of the mission, those are gone.
Oh, you mean once the run is over?
Yeah,
yes.
once the run is over.
Yes, that whole
they start
toolkit,
that part over.
Yes, that whole toolkit does reset at
That's
the beginning of a run.
That's kind of a bummer. I mean, I guess those things are pretty overpowered in some ways, and maybe they would just kind of diminish. Like if you just had a bunch of rubber ducks and you could just plant them. But as someone who likes to collect stuff, I want to fill that case out. I'm never going to fill that case out. Like,
I've gotten some guns. I've got a few melee weapons.
The guns, yeah, but I'm saying the tool case.
I find so you've got like an assassin secret base, layer.
This is the best part.
Which, if anybody knows how to change the motivational posters, I am really mad that I didn't pick the one I wanted, and I haven't gotten a prompt.
I haven't
to
actually
change
been
it.
able to change those either. That might be something they need to fix.
Surely you are not locked into. I did not pick them. Some of those motivational posters are very good.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't anyway.
I have the hang in there poster.
Yes, I did do hang in there. It's a very good hang in. Anyway,
have you gone upstairs yet?
No, I haven't unlocked all the way up there yet.
It's a whole ass house up there.
Yeah, I saw some of the trailer footage, and I really want to see that stuff. But anyway, a big part of the base is like you've got these giant weapon displays, and you can fill out your collection of stuff. I find the emphasis on guns there to be bizarre because this is so not a shooter. Like it's like extremely not a shooter in any regard. Like, I mean, different play styles. Correct me if you feel differently, but like, my feeling has always been if you were like guns out shooting in this thing, you are about to die and you have fucked up.
They have their place, but so far in this freelancer mode. Yes, because the targets they give you sometimes are just hanging out in the middle of a ballroom and like just doing a path there. It's not like a lot of the targets don't always just walk into a back closet somewhere where you can do that weird shot from across the map and just take them out. A lot of but like Alex, when we played on the stream, I had a gun and the target was literally just walking by me while my back was to the exit point. So I was just able to shoot the target and just turn around. Yeah. Even though everybody saw me, I was able to just turn around.
I've also had missions where the target was just right in my face at the spawn, but it is truly randomized. Like I did 2 Colorado missions in a row between failed runs. The first one, it spawned me at the top of the water tower with like a bunch of guards all milling around
that's what
right at the
happened to
bottom.
us during the stream, yes.
And then the second time, it put me way on the outskirts where it was super easy to just go get a disguise instantly and just waltz in and do the thing. It's like
I kind of like it, and I actually haven't figured out how to reset after a failure and just skip the escalated part. So I've been doing the escalated ones.
Oh, there's a thing to the right.
Yeah, there's a little like I don't know, it's like a pamphlet or something on the desk in front of the map that you can just go up and use, and it'll end your run.
Yeah,
I kind of like doing the escalated one too, just to see how dumb it can get.
My approach is always like if I have that happen in the first tier of missions, then I will just start the campaign over. Yeah. If it happens after that, I'm just gonna go with it.
If you have finished a showdown, which I have not yet, you're already deep enough in that you should just keep rolling.
I have finished exactly 1 showdown ever.
I finished 2, but it was really messy. Just a lot of people died.
So I've only gotten to 1 showdown so far, and it was in Paris, and there were 4 Are there always 4 suspects, or was that random?
No, because as it goes on, they add more with each tier.
Well, so there were 4 on Paris, and it was like blonde, glasses, necklace, earrings, smoking a cigarette, like smoker.
Yeah.
Sweet
tooth.
Dehydrated was the other one, which I didn't see, but like I checked one or two of the other suspects, not it. I found a blonde woman with glasses and a necklace going out for a cigarette.
Yeah.
I was like, this has to be the target. Like, that's almost all the checkboxes.
Yeah.
Killed her.
Not the target.
Not the target. The target is fleeing. I was like, what? How is what?
So that is the thing. I have no problem with the repeated failure. I have no problem with the general challenge level of what they are doing. I think those missions are a little broken. Because
with the fleeing?
With the fleeing. I think it's too easy to make those people flee, and I think that they need a greater variety of those aspects of the character, like the guess who parts that you're looking for. Because right now it does feel like I'm seeing a lot of the same ones over and over and over again, and there just isn't enough to recombine them in an interesting way.
I could see that. Also, I don't know. I got caught when I killed what I thought was the target and turned out not to be. I also got caught by a guard at the same time, so I don't know if it was killing the wrong target or getting caught that made the actual target.
I think it's getting caught.
Okay.
Or them seeing a body or something like that. Something put them on alert where they leave.
Okay, so if you cleanly kill the wrong,
I think so,
suspect, you can get away with it.
You can totally get away with it. It's just that like in some cases there is no opportunity to kill one of those NPCs cleanly because you're in a map where their exact path is just to hang out around everybody always.
Yeah. So the other thing I came to with that is like, I never found the real target because they got away. I couldn't find them as they were fleeing in the like 90 seconds they give you or something.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Fast.
2 minutes before they exit the map. But again, the red herring fit the profile so almost exactly that like I don't know how the real target could have been any more obvious than the fake one. Like,
so it is. I have found that generally speaking, and again, I've only done a handful of these because I don't always make it there, but I think there's usually two suspects that are pretty close to each other in terms of traits, but there's one, like it's missing one or two of them.
Interesting.
Do you know, and this maybe the chat can, somebody can message me.
The chat?
The Discord.
This live show we're doing?
Yes. If a person shows a trait that's not on the list, does that eliminate them from the list, or can they have additional traits that are not on the list? Like if somebody is eating or drinking a thing and the icon comes over their head and that's not listed, can you mark them off safely, or can they have additional traits that aren't on there? Because that would really help eliminating people if you see somebody like, oh, they're smoking. That's definitely not them. But not if they said non-smoker.
Right.
I like the tools they have to be able to say not a suspect or prime suspect. Those seem to work generally okay with the camera. I like that when you're looking in the camera, it's basically the icon over their head that they're looking for. That really helps me in terms of like, what are they doing? Are they eating food? And it'll show the icon, and if the icon's there, be like, okay, this is pretty simplified. Just match the icon to the profile icon. That part's okay. The fleeing is a pain in the butt because usually when they're fleeing, something's popped off. So it's not like you just run after them. Everybody's shooting at you.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess I could play better and be more stealthy, but it's a really frustrating thing because it takes so long to get up to that showdown. And then to have somebody just run off the map is takes the wind out of your sails.
Suboptimal. I think my issues with it are just like little balance things. I think the core design of what they're doing is really cool, and I think it is a great way to elongate people's interest in that game, especially now that they've done this rebrand. I just want them to rebalance a couple of things. That's it.
Yeah, it is a really cool way to add tension and stakes to successive missions that you don't normally get in those games because you can just save scum all day long.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I kind of also wish there was a little bit more, like some other like meta layer of progression or something. Like, I don't know, man. I wish they had added trophies to it or made it tie back into your overall like campaign mastery more or something.
I like the Hitman, the Freelancer mastery is nice.
But that's self-contained, right? Isn't
that's self-contained?
It's like a totally separate mastery track. Like it just feels like very self-contained. Like it doesn't touch anything about the rest of the Hitman world of assassination.
Maybe you get this later on, but I wish you could unlock certain reusable things. And again, this might break the balance of the game, but certain things like that you could bring in over, like a gun, you can bring in over and over again if you wanted, or the general fiber wire, or the coin, right? That you could just, like at a certain level, the game knows you are good enough. You've hit a mastery level. You could always bring the coin in or something like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some rewards like that for maybe finishing a full run or something.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure. I haven't made it to the second showdown. I've only made it past one showdown.
I've made it to the second showdown, but I bombed out so fucking hard on it.
Man, it's like, God, I can't eat. Fuck, man. That's like. It's like a week or something to get to the final showdown in this thing. Like, you playing it every day, it would, like, how many? I'd have to look.
It's 5 tiers, I believe.
But they stretch out by one each time?
They add an extra mission to each one.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can do the math. That's a lot of missions. Like, by the time you get to that last showdown, I think I would be, like the butterflies in my stomach would be such that I would just never finish the run.
Yeah.
It's kind of an amazing. It's a thing to work for on its own, really. But right now, I'm just not good enough at Hitman. The nice thing is, this is showing me so much more of the maps than I've ever seen before. There are places on these maps that I'm starting in, and I was like, I've never even been here. What is this back room?
There have definitely been a few map spots where I'm like, I don't know what this is or what's happening, and I think that is sort of the Achilles heel of anyone playing this mode. Is you need to know these maps fairly inside and out.
You should probably go through the campaign first to at least get a survey of the maps, because at least I know the general layout of the maps. But if you don't know and aren't doing the story missions, some of them are fairly labyrinthine, and like you won't know how to get like 5 levels underground, or you have to get into this building is where they're doing this weird science experiment, and don't forget there's a total lab underground in is it in China? Like, I had to go.
There's multiple levels that have underground labs.
So I had 4 of the showdown targets were underground and 1 was not, and so I had to mark one above ground and then like go up and down to get in and out of that place pretty easily, which meant clearing out a bunch of people. I died in that. That's my showdown I died on. But yeah, I really dig it. It's a neat thing. I kind of, out of all the stuff we've talked about so far, it's the thing I boot up when I've got about 45 minutes to just jump in and play a thing.
It is the thing I've been going back to repeatedly over the last week.
It's really neat.
It kind of derailed all the other stuff that came out.
Yeah,
and good on them.
I kind of just kept going back to that. I mean, it is like, as much as it is demoralizing to fail out of a run and stuff, it can be like a nice bite-sized thing,
Yeah,
because you can save the runs. You can't save mid-mission, which is by design, obviously, but like. It can be easy to be just like, I'll pop off one more mission on that run. Like, I'll just sit down for 30 minutes and play one mission and then be done.
You never know when you're just going to get that super easy one. That super duper easy one where it's all going to line up for you. And then you just walk away. That is the Hitman Freelancer mode that was patched in recently. Hitman, you figure out how you want to get it. At this point, I don't even know where it is and how much it is.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly they have simplified the whole thing where you just buy the product and get everything now.
I still own Hitman across like 4 different platforms, and I have to figure out.
I have it on at least 2.
Yeah, I forget which one is my main one.
I continue to be glad that I am on Xbox for that thing, where the smart delivery stuff means it just turns into whatever the current version of the game is.
Okay.
Because I went back to the PS5 to download that version, and like I've still got like Hitman 2 map packs for PS4 that show up in the like content that I own for that thing.
Right.
It's like super confusing how to license yourself for all the stuff.
I do wish they eventually, at the very least, did cross progression across different things with the IO account.
I wish it had gotten to that point, like the Witcher style, like just sync your saves back and forth. They
did have to log in, but
they did, but they never got that far. They did that weird like one time
choose your platform,
like, choose your save to merge type weird stuff. Yeah, it's weird.
Because I have it on the Epic Game Store is my main one, but I wouldn't mind just being able to plop down between like a different game on the PlayStation and just fire it up for a run at this point too, especially if you're just like, I just want to do a run, all right, that's Hitman Freelancer mode. Next up, we still got more games to go here. Next up, Forspoken, a game we talked about last week. I have put about 10 plus hours in. I don't know why. I am unsure exactly how I feel about that game.
I think I'm done with it.
I kind of want to see more of it, but I don't really understand what's propelling me, what my magical parkour is through this world. I'm not sure what it is, but something is. It's really the most checklist thing I've done in a while.
Oh, yeah, it's extremely
Matt
one
vomit
of those.
Checklist.
It is, and very little of what's on that checklist is that interesting, which I
You're
think
right.
is the thing that is stopping me from continuing on with it. And I was curious, and I was continuing with it because there's just something about that game and the creative choices they made and the things they chose to commit to that I'm kind of fascinated by.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, I don't know.
But it's purely a professional fascination. It's not because I'm having a blast with it or anything. I'm kind of not. It's not terrible, but it's not that interesting.
So I got the part where I got a whole nother magic tree.
Yeah.
So I'm up to that part, and I'm curious to see if that opens things up. Also, you get some new traversal mechanics, and because that's kind of needed. There's a lot of just sprinting through this map constantly, which is a very samey kind of map, this kind of desolate wasteland. I don't quite know. I even turned down the banter, the Cuff and protagonist banter, because I got tired of every time I scanned a thing, them saying like, maybe there's something over there. Maybe you should shut your face. They're like, all right, whatever. Just stop sniping at each other.
If the sniping was better, I wouldn't mind, but it's not very interesting.
They're so at each other's throat. What'd you pick up? Why do you care? It's like, just stop. So I turned it down to the one that's like the one tick fewer, which seems to be much better now.
Yeah.
The combat is like not that engaging to me, and
it's like fun for a time. And it's like, when I played that preview demo, it was like that was a good amount of time to enjoy that combat. I don't think it gets that much more interesting as you go along. I mean, yes, they add things to it, but it just feels like it kind of has one thing that it's doing, and you just do it over and over again.
I'm gonna see. So I've got all this new magic now, new traversal mechanics. Maybe it's one of those games that is like it takes 10 hours to open up. Not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying maybe it is one of those, and maybe I'll wind up loving it in the end. I'm probably gonna keep going with it some more. Do we know how long this one is? Is it?
I don't think it's like massively long, but it is not short either.
I've seen chatter that it's not very long, like 15 hours or something.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
15? Because the map seems big.
Yeah, I mean, but there are. I think there's 4 of those like Tantas.
If you have to
queens.
fight them all, I don't know.
Yeah, if you have to fight them all.
I feel very over-leveled as well. I don't think I should have stopped at every single marker on my way across the map, because clearly I took out that first boss in one shot and was like just spamming that machine gun magic you get, and she went down pretty hard. And it's the kind of epic. Well, it's this kind of epic fight where you're supposed to be. She's like, "I'm the all-powerful. You'll never destroy me." And I just like clicked to the cutscene within 2 minutes of like, "How are you so strong?"
How long to beat? Currently saying 14 and a half hours for the main story.
Whoa.
Main story and side missions like 20, 21.
Really? Because I'm
okay,
like
so
10
it's like
plus
kind of
there.
it's like a Ghost of Tsushima level length.
All right. I felt like this was going to be a 40 to 50 hour one, so we'll see.
I'm kind of glad it's not, because I don't think what they have going on here would sustain something of that length.
I think
it says about 50 to like for everything, like quite literally every collectible and everything. But
I think I'm getting burned out on the collectibles already. The nails and the cloaks and all that stuff. It's a little too much. I am mostly curious to see how this wraps up, if they are looking to turn this into a franchise, or if they kind of end it with a bow on it, If they're like, oh, you're stuck here now, or if it's, we go back home and world reset. That's Forspoken. I'm going to keep playing it. I'm not super loving it, but is something in there. There's something in there that is just, I think it's one of those turn my brain off and just kind of run around on the map games. And so we'll see. All right. We're getting down into it now, but GoldenEye, Brad, tell me about GoldenEye.
Okay, James Bond is a secret agent. His code name is 007.
Okay. Does he have golden eyes?
Ask me anything about James Bond.
What's your favorite character from GoldenEye?
Odd Job?
Great.
It's the only one I can think of.
It's great.
I am on record as having been very busy playing Quake around the time that GoldenEye came out. I'm not some big GoldenEye fan, but they put that out on the Xbox and the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
I played it on the Xbox because I own Rare Replay.
Okay.
And so they gave it to everyone who owns Rare Replay as the kind of big conspicuous gap in Rare Replays. It's the collection of Rare's history, if you don't know. They came out around the beginning of the Xbox One generation.
Mm-hmm.
GoldenEye being the one big game in there that was missing. I went and also re-downloaded Rare Replay. Very irrationally upset that they did not update Rare Replay itself to include this game.
Oh, it just launches like alongside it? Like it's
not
a
even
separate...
that. It's literally they haven't even touched the base game.
Okay.
They just, also, that's only if you have the digital version. If you have a retail disc copy of Rare Replay, you do not get GoldenEye.
Oh, there's no way for them to
they could.
Yeah.
And all of your friends that you also loaned the disc to long enough to license the game.
I guess.
No, yeah. So if you have a digital license for, something.
They couldn't do the thing where you have to have the disc in the drive to play it?
They probably could.
Yeah.
But they didn't. There is a fair amount of unrest over that particular situation, but
there's also yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
there's
just
a bunch
also,
here.
Assign as much import to this as you want. I'm the person who wouldn't shut up about Atari 50 last year, but Rare Replay is a pretty nice, tidy package of Rare's whole freaking history. It's kind of a pretty extensive history. There's a lot of cool historical stuff in there. It's a nice interface with all the games laid out in a timeline and stuff. It just feels like there was archival work there to do that they didn't do. It belongs in there with all those other games, and they didn't.
So,
but anyway,
a couple of other technical points here. It's on Game Pass, but you can't buy it on its own?
Yeah, I guess that's the case.
Okay.
Which is crazy.
We checked before the podcast, and that seemed to still be the case, where you either have to buy Rare Replay, and then you'll get the game, or you get it on Game Pass. So it didn't seem like it had its own SKU.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like you can buy it directly. Rare Replay is, I think, $30 regular now these days. And I've seen it for as low as $8. And then
the other weird technical point, which I'll bring up and feel free to just say, I'm not sure, is this is not exactly the same thing that is releasing on the Switch.
No. The Switch version is part of the Nintendo Switch Online Nintendo 64 offering.
Yeah. The
Switch version is also the only version with online play. The Xbox version does not have online play, which is also not going over well. Also, there's I'm no aficionado, but emulation issues, texture problems. I saw Grant Kirkhope upset on Twitter that the pause music is missing a sonar hit. And he would know as the composer.
Ken Lobb said anything?
No, I have not heard anything about the sanctity of the club. Hopefully, is still in place. But some issues here and there. I'm also not clear how connected this is to that leaked XBLA port that came out a year or two ago. I don't think this has anything to do with that version, but I could be wrong. Maybe they did share some of the same work. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird situation. The lack of online play on Xbox, which is the platform people would want to play it online on, is just a real bummer.
How does it control? Is it faithful?
It's fine.
Did they redo the controls?
The Xbox version defaults to nice high res and widescreen and dual analog controls. It feels like a modern. Okay. Maybe I'll fire it up on the grab bag. I don't know.
Okay.
It plays basically like a modern shooter.
It's not paint the cursor style thing.
You can still do that.
All right. I don't want to.
It very approachably plays like a modern shooter out of the box.
All right.
Which is good, at least. It's a weird thing. The whole situation is just kind of a mess.
Okay. Another just quick question here. What are they? Okay. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this to just keep it as short as possible. the thing they are trying to do with Perfect Dark is a remake of Perfect Dark, and
no, it's a full brand new game.
Full brand new reimagining of Perfect Dark.
Yes.
Reboot.
Okay. All right. And we'll see when that comes out.
Yes.
Who knows? GoldenEye available now on Xbox and a different version on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Brad, you said you played Kingdom Rush?
We don't even need to get into it. They put out Kingdom Rush on the Xbox, and now I find myself playing through Kingdom Rush for like the fourth time.
Okay.
It's still very good. The controls are not great because it's a touchscreen game. Now you're playing with sticks.
$10?
It's $10. Basically just an opportunity for me to say, A, Kingdom Rush still very good. B, where did all the tower defense games go?
Fair question.
When are they going to port Ninja Town to the Xbox?
I don't know where they went.
Why did they never ported Ninja Town to anything else? And that's a crime because that game's amazing.
I am not familiar with Ninja Town.
Wait, are you sure you didn't play it?
I mean, it's possible I played it. I don't know.
I distinctly remember playing it on the bus to Sausalito.
I don't know. Wait, was it a PSP game?
No, it's a DS game.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you didn't, but I definitely was playing it in that period when we were riding that bus.
Okay. Yeah, listen, maybe I played Ninja Town. I don't know.
It's a great game.
I do like a tower defense game though.
I remember Ninja Town.
Man, I miss tower defense. It's time for There's like things with tower defense elements in them out there, but there aren't a lot of pure tower defense games being made anymore.
You know, there are, if you're looking for tower defense, you're probably going to find it in a factory building game that has mob spawn.
Yes.
So
stuff like
that's
that.
Okay by me.
Yeah.
It's okay by me.
Sometimes you just want to build and upgrade some towers and then just sit back and watch everything die.
Yeah, you do that and you just got to build the components to build the towers.
Man, so much. Also, I just went to the tower defense genre page on Steam to see what is hot in tower defense, and at the very top is Dota 2, so that's what happened. Let's move on.
What? Okay, we got to defend those towers. Alex Navarro.
Yeah.
There is one more thing to talk about in this game section. A game that is
SpongeBob.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
I mean, technically there's two things, but this is the last one that I've actually played that is out. SpongeBob.
What do we got to say about SpongeBob?
They made a SpongeBob game.
What about it? What about it?
Do you like platformers that feel like they came out of 2004?
Sometimes.
A solid enough one of those?
Sure, sometimes.
Is that when Bikini Bottom came out? 2004?
It was somewhere in that range. I don't remember the exact date, but it was definitely in that era.
I will look it up.
What is this SpongeBob?
What is it? Cosmic Shake, I think is the subtitle, something along those lines.
Okay. Great strain of weed.
SpongeBob runs afoul of things. Stuff goes wrong. People are transported into weird worlds. You have to go put on cute little costumes and then go rescue them. That's kind of it. That's the game. It is it is a nice looking 3D platformer, but it definitely feels like a high fidelity version of a 2 generations ago platformer.
Yeah, I mean, people don't know what happened is they put out that remake of Bikini Bottom 3 years ago, I think it was.
Like, maybe not even that. It might have been like 2.
And I think it did way better than they expected.
Yeah.
And
people have a lot of affection for that game in particular, but I mean, SpongeBob, still popular.
Yeah. They basically were just like, hey, we got to capitalize on this. Let's make a new one.
Okay.
They made a new one.
You think I'll play it on the grab bag or something?
I'll try it out. Yeah, I'll show a little bit of it. There's not a lot to show there. It is just a very straightforward platformer with the voice actors that you know.
It does look pretty nice now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Eyeballing it.
SpongeBob, SpongeBob is out there. All right, we have a preview of a game that is coming out later this month. Like a Dragon, Ishin.
This one is also a remake of an existing game. Yakuza Ishin. I don't remember if it was called Yakuza Ishin or if they changed the title slightly more than that, but there were a couple of Yakuza side story games that came out only in Japan where... Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know how in Warner Brothers cartoons, sometimes they would do retellings of classic stories, but all the characters were just played by the Warner Brothers characters, and they were basically still their same personalities?
Yep.
That's this.
What are they retelling?
they're not retelling a specific story, but they are doing an era story. I think in like turn of the century Japan.
Oh,
and by that, I mean
sure, yes.
19th
okay.
and 20th century.
I remember this now, yeah.
Yes. And so you are playing as like Kiryu, and, you know, it's the same voice actor for Kiryu, but it's a different character. He is a wandering samurai ronin who is hunting down, I think, someone who maybe killed his master. But like Majima is there, and a bunch of the other characters that are from around the era of Yakuza 0, which is when, I think around the time they put this game out, Yakuza 0 was also coming out in Japan. And it's all those guys, but they are playing different characters within this world. And so I saw a version of it. It is, I would say this is analogous to like those Kiwami remakes of 1 and 2. It does not look dazzling, but it is a big visual upgrade from what it was in the last gen hardware.
Okay. Got it. I'm looking at images now. Looks very... looks solid.
And like,
does it have the beat 'em up aspect?
Yes, and so you do have a sword and you have weapons, but there are different fighting styles. One is just hand to hand, where you can still pick up objects and beat people to death with them. There is a gun and sword combo style. There's one that's just guns, and I think there's one that's just swords.
Ishin.
And so, look, I played about 1.5 chapters of it. You know, they kind of dropped me in the middle of the story, so I don't know like what the setup for everything is. But if you have been itching for more of those characters, even in a different setting, I feel like this is going to scratch that itch just fine, assuming you didn't already import the original version.
Has there been one since 7? Was 7 still the last one to come out?
7 is the last official Yakuza game. They did a Judgment sequel in the ensuing time, but I think the new Like a Dragon game is supposed to come out this year.
Is it?
I think it is.
Because what is the other spinoff that they're bringing out here finally? I can't remember the name of that one either.
There's another spinoff?
Yeah, we covered it in the news a few months ago. Weren't there 2?
Binary Domain.
I don't know that there is. I think it's just them doing this side story, like doing the remake of this side story game.
Well, there's the Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I was talking about.
I forgot about that completely. Yes. So yes, they do have some things in the hopper, but I think the sequel is also supposed to be out this year.
Like a Dragon 8's 2025. 24, end of 2024 is what I'm seeing.
Oh, okay. So they're not ready on that one yet.
Yeah, so
interesting.
This Gaiden is coming out this year.
Okay. That's interesting. Because they haven't actually said whether they're sticking with the turn-based combat for that one yet, I don't think.
For the new one?
For the new one.
I thought they said they were going back to the standard combat.
I'm not sure they said specifically. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I think the turn-based thing was neat, but I don't know that it had, like, it would have taken some significant reworking to make it better. And people did kind of miss just the straight-up beat-em-up stuff.
So it's all just Like a Dragon now, right? Yakuza...
Everything is Like a Dragon, in the West, at least, yeah.
Okay.
But I think they might also be going with that name in Japan as well.
All right.
I played it. It was fun. I'm looking forward to playing it because I did not ever touch those side story games because they never officially came out here, and now they are. I believe this one is.
I'm seeing suggestions that 8 will be turn-based. I am not 100% sure I can confirm that, but that seems to be what is understood.
I had thought I saw one of them say, or one of the developers at one point say that like they were going to go forward with evolving that fighting style into Like a Dragon stuff, and they were going to keep the beat 'em up stuff for Judgment. And I wonder if them maybe not being sure if they're going to make more Judgment games gave them any sort of pause on that. But I also might be making all of this up. There have been a lot of these things they have announced. Mm-hmm. I completely forgot about that Gaiden game. So here we go.
That is Like a Dragon Ishin. It is slated to come out end of February 21st and 22nd. Between Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. That's going to do it for the games.
That's a lot of games.
That's a lot of games.
Woohoo!
I'm excited because there's like 5 things on this list that I would just go pick up right now and go want to play.
Absolutely going to play more Hitman as soon as we are done here.
Yeah. of everything we just talked about, like talking about Hitman made me want to go play more Hitman.
I definitely want to go do a run just because you might get that. You never know, you get that easy one.
Yeah,
like, you might be right there. We're gonna go take another quick break. We're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about the news because just because there are a lot of games coming out doesn't mean the news has stopped. So we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back with the news. And we're back. And what could or would the video game industry be without E3 either to celebrate, to bag on, to go to feel good about,
Not
to feel bad about, to wonder where it is? E3 will always be in the news somehow. This year, E3 is back, ... question mark. Brad Shoemaker.
Trade show that wouldn't die.
Brad Shoemaker. What is in store for this year? Or I guess what's not in store for this year's E3?
We've been talking for a while about the fact that ReedPop, the purveyors of PAX, and I think various Comic-Cons, and a bunch of other stuff, the events company, has taken over E3 and is rebooting E3 and et cetera, and they have been saying a lot of the right things. And then we haven't heard anything for some months. And now suddenly here is IGN, Cat Bailey at IGN reporting Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony are all declining to be part of this new E3 this year.
Oh dear.
And now on its face, Sony kind of opted out of E3 for a long, pre-pandemic. They were the first one.
Yeah, they were gone even when we were still going to E3.
Nintendo had scaled it back, I feel like, a little bit, but still had a presence. Microsoft, though.
Nintendo booth presence had still been pretty healthy. It
was all right.
They weren't doing their stage show anymore. That was the big change.
They kind of embraced the direct, and that's kind of what they did.
Just running a direct the day the show started rather than having a big stage thing.
I think Microsoft. Brad, talk to me about Microsoft and E3.
They were still there. They had, as far as I remember, they never gave up their booth space, but they had converted the actual Xbox booth on the show floor to a Mixer booth, which certainly will not be an option this time as Mixer no longer exists. But you know what I mean. Like they had moved largely off the show floor to the Nokia Theater and their property basically across the street from the LA Convention Center.
But they Phil Spencer especially had talked a lot about being involved in the ESA, Microsoft on the board. E3 is a great thing. I never want it to go away. What is going on, or what is reportedly going on?
I think it's more what is not going on.
What is not going on?
Which is if they don't have buy-in from the platform holders, I don't know what this thing is going to be. Microsoft, it sounds like, is still going to be doing stuff at their LA location. I think they've just said recently that, like, hey, we'll be there at a time that is convenient for press and consumers in that same space.
E3 adjacent.
But without knowing what shape E3 itself is going to take, I don't know how much that means. I mean, like, Xbox aside, if you don't have Nintendo and Sony, what is your video game trade event?
Well, it's also okay.
Like PAX has Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, like PAX is a very different focus. You know, obviously that's like started to say primarily games that are out. That stopped being true a long time ago. They definitely show unreleased games at PAX, but games that are in more of a final state. But yeah, man, I don't.
I think it's even more of a weird one. Well, Microsoft very weird because they have talked. You know, at least Phil Spencer has talked a lot about Microsoft's kind of relationship with E3, and they like, but kind of at a 20,000 foot view, Microsoft has soaked up a lot of developers. So Microsoft not being on that floor means a lot of development is not on that floor. Like Bethesda is not on that floor. Like every studio they have soaked up does not have a presence on that floor. So where you might have had other booths showing up, it just means all of that would not be on there. You know, even I'll go as small as to say Double Fine had a showing on the floor. That's where I saw Psychonauts 25 years ago, Psychonauts 2 on the floor. But, means they wouldn't be on the floor. But I think, Brad, like you mentioned, you went to the Nokia theater and you saw all their stuff there kind of laid out there.
They always had like meeting rooms and a whole setup there.
I mean, you're still booking the same meetings.
Yeah.
You're just walking across the street to go there. Like, that was not a big deal, but like,
Well, I think
I don't know.
on a technical level, is it a big deal because you didn't need to buy an E3 pass to get in there? It's like it was a separate thing.
I think they actually were using that as like kind of a soft like means of entry.
Oh, like if you have one.
I want to say they were kind of treating the show badge as sort of your pass in there. I mean, a lot of the stuff they were doing there was by appointment only. But there was absolutely like kind of a weird blending with the show itself that they were doing.
Cousins.
Yeah.
EA had been completely outside though, right?
Yeah, they
for a while.
Like they moved. Yeah, EA Play started off the show floor, like away from all that stuff. Like, God, I don't even like years ago.
Yeah.
And I think did they even do an EA Play, like the full stage show, the last physical E3? I can't remember.
I think they didn't.
It's hard. It's all a blur at this point. But I mean, like it makes sense for Microsoft to be doing this stuff with the same timing because they're kind of hedging their bets as to whether E3 becomes a thing again or not. But without Sony and Nintendo, like, I don't know.
But that's the thing is that, and again, this is pure speculation on my part, but I feel like if this show was shaping up in a way that any of these platform holders could feel confident about, Microsoft would be there with bells on because they are the ones that have been stumping for the E3 should exist. We think it's an important thing. Phil Spencer that's kind of been his line all along. And if they're not even getting buy-in from him and them to not necessarily be on the show floor, but at the very least, like have a more significant, notable presence at this show, then what is like art? It sounds to me like they are not making a compelling pitch for this show.
I don't know. Yeah. Like they've been out there basically saying like, hey, it's been taking a long time to formulate plans for what the new E3 is going to be. The key thing was they were like, we didn't put contracts in front of any potential exhibitors until this month, kind of thing. But the reporting from IGN sounds pretty definitive of those companies are not interested. So the way they're portraying it is not some situation of like, oh, the ink just hasn't dry, like they haven't formalized the agreements yet. It'll happen. Right. It sounds more like they have no plans to take part.
It's a weird thing. I feel like the headline Microsoft not at E3 is a bigger shock than the reality where Microsoft will be next door to E3 in a similar capacity to E3, just in the building they own at E3 and not in the building they don't own at E3. But again, I think it comes down to if you go to LA and in the convention center during the time of E3, can you go from the convention center into Microsoft showing at E3 painlessly? Will it just be a technicality that they're not inside the Staples? Is it still the Staples Center, or is it like some crypto? Is it the crypto building?
That different building. The Staples Center is separate from
the Nokia Theater. Is its own thing.
It's the Nokia Theater, and is LA Live? Is that the name of
at LA Live?
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. LA Live is that whole big shopping center thing, right? It's a giant mass of properties.
But is E3 not in the Staples Center?
No.
Oh, where is E3?
Staples Center is an arena. E3 is the LA Convention Center.
Oh, sorry, I'm getting them confused. So what is the Staples Center? That's where the basketball games are.
Yes.
Okay.
The Staples Center is just the thing that fucked up our getting out of the convention center the years that the playoffs were in there.
Yes, when the hockey playoffs were, and basketball.
Right.
Hockey and basketball? Do those sports happen at the same time?
I don't remember if we ever hit a hockey playoff.
I thought the Kings were.
No, we did. There was one where the Kings were in the Stanley Cup Finals. I remember that.
It was the one where somebody was following me into a store and was like yelling at me after that. It was like a very rowdy. Those hockey fans are very rowdy.
It was, I think it was basketball was the year where it was like if you were still in the convention center after closing, they were like, you can't leave right now. Yes. You have to stay in here.
Yes. That was the Lakers.
That's when we were at that little house we rented, right?
Yes.
Either way, sorry. So the convention center.
Yes.
Right. If they're not in there, I don't know. I guess listen, that's hard. That's hard. I'm not saying it like I shed a tear for Reed Pop, but like.
No, God, no.
That's got to be a tough one to try and wrangle.
I mean, it's like an incredibly tough nut to crack for sure. To like, I sure as fuck you couldn't pay me enough money to be the one to try to decide what is E3 going to be that will make it successful.
But then the question I have is, okay, if it's that tough a nut to crack, was the right move to come out there and say we're doing it this year?
Money.
They got to start from a show of strength, right? Like they've got to, if they're not confident about their own show.
It's definitely this doesn't help. You're right. This doesn't help.
This does not look strong at all. It looks like the opposite of strong.
But maybe we and probably a majority of our audience are not the target here. Maybe it's to go down there and see a bunch of, not Microsoft or not care who the publisher is, right? Like we look at it and we're like, oh, Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony aren't there. But maybe the people that are going aren't that, in as deep as our audience and we are, of like, they don't care. They just want to go and hang out and see some people play their favorite, go play Tarkov or something live there. And, that's what it was turning into.
I basically agree with you, but the fact that they are talking about building this out to have its own 2 days of press days, but in addition to the public stuff, I feel like they are in fact trying to cater to that group a little bit, and they are specifically whiffing on the thing that would make media more interested in being there.
Everything they've been saying so far makes it sound like they're trying to make it all things to all potential categories. It's like, hey, we're serving the business community and press and consumers, and there will be something for everyone here.
I wonder at this point, the audience could definitely fill me in. I'd like to know, after they did the, hey, you can come celebrate E3, the thing you've always wanted to, and did those public days, I wonder if most of the people just want to see the announcements online at this point. Like, do they want to travel out to LA? Did the buzz didn't pick up, I feel like, enough to be like, it's amazing. It's everything we dreamed of. I feel like E3 was behind this curtain for a lot of people, and there was this mystery, and they just wanted to go to E3. And once that curtain was pulled back, the buzz didn't lift it up enough to make it work. I didn't hear enough people say, I heard some people be like, this is awesome. I didn't hear enough people say.
The problem is they pulled back the curtain after all the stuff people wanted to see had already left.
Yeah. I mean, some people definitely enjoyed it. I remember talking to a lot of people on the floor being like, what do you think? They're like, I really like it. And, there's a lot of waiting online. There was a lot of, this and that. But I don't think people thought they wouldn't be doing that. I just wonder if people are like, I would much rather stay home with my Xbox plugged in, because sometimes those demos just come out and I could just play my Xbox. And the thing they're talking about might just drop, and I'm at home, and I could watch all the Microsoft press conference, and Sony's going to have a thing in the summer. And
I mean, there's nothing to say that they won't ride the wave of hype, and like Sony and Nintendo won't do some kind of online presentation in that time frame. Although, I mean, Jeff Keighley is just licking his chops off of this news, of course, because Summer Games Fest certainly is proceeding.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get all that spillover. So
maybe even those showcases are not timed to E3, but some other time in the summer. I don't know. It seems like a bad omen if this is actually true. Like that this thing is not necessarily going to come together in the way that it needs to.
I bet. I have no idea other than knowing how expensive a lot of that stuff was for exhibitors, but I wonder if just to make the money to rent that place, they couldn't cut deals the way they'd want to with show floor space, to say like, hey, we would just love to have you. We're going to cut you a deal. All the services, the uncorking fees for internet, the water, food, all the rules around what you could bring in. It just always sounded so expensive. Even when we would rent the war room, the fees on top of the general space, like, hey, you can't bring outside food in, you have to use this internet provider, all of these things added up to such an exorbitant amount of money that I can see Microsoft being like, we have our own space. It's just not worth it. I could see
any company saying that, and Sony and Nintendo being like, you know what, this is just not worth the expense. We have too many different ways we can get this info out there.
And I bet Reed would be like, oh, I wish we could just let you come in for free, but like it's costing us so much to rent this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you were hearing back 3 years ago, like right before the pandemic, when E3 was really kind of falling apart regardless of the pandemic. Like, apparently E3 constituted a huge amount of the ESA's revenue as well, so it's just like straight up they are losing enormous amounts of their expected take if this doesn't happen.
I mean, like, the ESA is a truly demonic organization, and I will shed zero tears for them or any of their failures, but nonetheless, I feel like Reed Pop basically, it feels like maybe they bought a lemon here.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, again, like they were saying a lot of the right things. It seemed like their heart was in the right place with this stuff, but who knows what those plans look like behind the scenes. Clearly not enticing enough to get the... I mean, if you don't have the hardware makers, you don't have anything, really.
No.
I mean, again, maybe it's stands with t-shirt guns and people and tournaments and stuff, and that's and selling gamer chairs and a lot of the peripheral stuff around games. But PAX still does a really good job of letting independent developers meet fans and showcase their games there. E3 always felt like the publishers and the and the game console makers being there. I don't know what we'll find out what personality it winds up taking, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they're moving forward. It's not like they're canceling it. Or at least not yet.
Right. Yeah. But like, I mean, like just inherently, like you can't continue to cast yourself as the industry trade event of record if you don't have like multiple of the platform makers in that industry showing up,
Yeah.
And I bet it poisons the well a little bit of like, well, if Microsoft's not going, should Sega go? Like other publishers being like, we'll see. Again, expensive money. That we'll find out more as that stuff continues. Switching gears over, well, not really switching gears, but Brad, Sony, we mentioned this before. What's going on with PS VR2? They seem like they are up for pre-order on Sony's sites. You had mentioned also maybe I brought up like, why are they out there in general pre-orders, and talked about supply stuff. What is Sony saying out there?
Well, they're responding to a Bloomberg report that says that they have lowered forecasts for the number of headsets they expect to ship by 50%.
Mm-hmm.
That they were planning to have 2 million headsets ready for the launch quarter, according to this Bloomberg story, that they have lowered that to 1 million. Also, Bloomberg seems to have some information coming out of supply chain, which I think is where a lot of this type of reporting on consumer electronics comes from, basically saying that they may be reducing orders for component supply for things like the screens that go in the headset, which would indicate that they are planning to make fewer of them than they had expected.
Mm-hmm.
Sony, of course, has denied this. They told GamesIndustry.biz they are, quote, seeing enthusiasm from PlayStation fans for the upcoming launch, which includes more than 30 titles such as games.
Yes. We have games.
Right.
Yes. So, I mean, of course, what else are they going to say? Of course, they're seeing enthusiasm, but I don't know. I mean, Bloomberg certainly felt secure enough in this information to go to press with it. So probably not a surprise. A $550 peripheral that is very cool but extremely inessential to the core PlayStation experience, exactly at a time when people are getting laid off across the board and a recession, real or imagined, is constantly hanging over everyone's heads. I mean, like, it's probably not a shock that ongoing economic factors were going to put a damper on demand for this thing, potentially.
I want adoption because I want developers to make stuff for it, but everything you just said is spot on.
Yeah.
It's a rough time. I mean, and whatever. That's not like they could put the brakes on. Well, they could, but investors would be torch and pitchforking. They were committed to this release time frame, and then kind of the economy started going to shit. But what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Still got to put this thing out, but it is a rough time to be launching it's a very expensive luxury accessory
on top of a very expensive console.
Yeah. Yes. And it seems awesome. Like we keep saying, I haven't used one myself, but it seems like a pretty damn solid VR headset if that's what you're looking for. But that's probably going to be a tough sell for a lot of people that are tightening the belts as this year continues. So yeah,
we'll keep an eye out. That is slated to launch end of this month, right?
Yeah,
I might put a pre-order in on Sony.
Yeah, that was part of looking into this stuff. Confirmed for me that they were using an invite-only system when they launched the pre-orders for that thing.
Are they available? They're general now?
Okay. And that at some point they open it up so you can just go put in a pre-order now.
I might could do that.
Which certainly also seems like that might reflect some lower than expected demand.
I wonder.
I don't know. That thing looks awesome. Like, just technically, like, it looks like a very nice piece of VR hardware.
I also, the added benefit of just getting that original PlayStation VR out of my living room and stored away somewhere. It still sits there. It takes up a lot of space.
I've still got that breakout box sitting under the TV. It hasn't been hooked up in probably a year.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to this kind of funny one. I thought this was funny. Brad, you put a story in here about DC Universe's movies, games, and whatnot. What are they trying to unify, Brad?
It's just, it's the same James Gunn stuff we've been talking about for a while of he's becoming the Kevin, help me out, please, anybody. Phage? Is that how?
That's how I've always pronounced it.
I feel like every time I ask that question, I get like 3 answers. Anyway, James Gunn is going to be that figure for DC, like the mastermind, like, creating one connected, consistent cinematic universe.
Yes, which they have tried many times to do and have not gotten there yet.
Yes, the game's headline here is that he is saying that is going to incorporate the DC video games into that, one unified universe going forward.
Makes sense to me.
But
an aspect of this does, but the thing they are talking about doing here, I think, is going to be a lot more complicated than they think it's going to be.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, look at how long like stuff like Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad have languished in development. Like the timing, that stuff. Like he actually there was a quote I meant to read. Characters are consistent, played by the same actors, and it works in one story. So we're straight up talking.
That's where it gets weird.
We're straight up talking getting likeness and VO from film actors for these games and stuff like that. And I don't know what that looks like with video game production timelines being the way they are.
Right.
I feel like the one thing to remember here, though, is that the definition of gaming is extremely broad these days. And that could very easily mean like mobile games that have much shorter development cycles and can come out right alongside movies and that sort of thing.
That's true, but I mean, it's not just the timetables, like it's budgets too. Like, is Warner Brothers in fact going to be helping if the external studios like with their voice acting budgets, because you have to pay those actors a lot more probably than you have to pay the average voice actor.
Yeah,
I think the bigger concern for me would be hamstringing developers and writers to have to fall along the story arc and story Bible, because I feel like most of the best video game stuff has been parallel to, not intersecting with the movie stuff. It has been alongside of it. I mean, really, the only portrayal in the DC universe that would have really bummed me out would have been like a Kevin Conroy's Batman being replaced with somebody else, and he passed away. So that's kind of off the table. So I don't know if there's any character that's portrayed in the DC universe in games now that it'd be like, how'd you not get, this character? I don't know if I would do the same for any Marvel thing either. Like replace Spider-Man all day. I'm not really sure if I have an attachment to the voice actor that has, done those. But Batman would have been a really tough one. If you did a new Batman game and didn't have Kevin Conroy in there, I feel like you would have gotten a lot of heat.
Yeah, to the point where I'm now wondering if they're going to try feeding his voice into some kind of AI going forward if they do any more of those. Because
whoever's the actor.
Yeah, granted, in Gotham Knights, there is a different Batman actor, but he's also not in a lot of that game. So
didn't they say they had Kevin Conroy in that Suicide Squad game?
Yeah, he's in Suicide Squad.
He's in that. He just wasn't in Gotham Knights.
That'll be his final appearance as Batman.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's current Batman.
I mean, you're talking movies?
Robert Pattinson was the most recent one, but I feel like that's a kind of a revolving door.
Okay.
They've also said, I think that the Reeves Batman stuff isn't necessarily intended to be part of the cinematic universe.
Interesting.
It's kind of its own weird little bottle area. So I'm not, but the thing is, they might change their mind on that. But as of now, as far as I know, the Batman that is portrayed in The Batman is not the Batman that is portrayed in, say, the Ben Affleck Batman
like Justice League stuff.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says The Batman right there. It's totally different.
So in this story you linked, Brad, they talk about DC Elseworlds.
Yeah, I was going to mention, I guess that's kind of an escape valve here. I assume that sounds like it's kind of like an equivalent to the Marvel What If stuff. Is that accurate?
I think What If.
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
DC Elseworlds. It sounds like that is kind of a dumping ground for things that don't fit into
non-canonical
this cinematic universe vision. and you could easily see games occupying that space. But he did say there will be games tied into what they're doing. So I mean, this is all years in the future.
Yeah,
because he literally like just took the reins, right?
Yeah,
like in the last month or something.
Oh, is that it?
So,
I feel like it's been talked about forever.
It's been, I think him being in this position is less than 2 months ago.
Yeah, what is DC's effort broadly conversation has been going for a very long time.
But he did the reboot Suicide Squad, right? And it was that.
Yes.
And that did well, I guess, and people were like, just keep
yes.
going. All right.
Yes, because Hollywood has a very short memory. It's like, who's the last person to make money? They're in charge of everything now.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like the Zack Snyder stuff has been super up and down for a fucking, a decade now or something?
Yes.
Or close to it. So like what is the state of DC as a connected universe thing has been debated heavily, let's say, for a bit.
And fill in my terrible memory. What is Rocksteady making a Flash game, or was that always rumored?
No, they're doing Suicide Squad.
Oh,
they're doing Suicide Squad. Yeah.
Okay.
And Monolith is doing Wonder Woman.
Monolith is doing Wonder Woman. Okay.
I had forgotten that Wonder Woman game was even in development.
Yeah, I mean, I think they basically just showed a logo and that was it. So there kind of has been nothing much to talk about since then.
All right.
Is there a Flash game?
I think I'm confusing it.
Googling for Flash game.
That's not going to help you.
Going to be tough.
Make sure you get it installed and Macromedia in your other browser. I think it was rumored, and then they announced the Suicide Squad, and that squashed that rumor.
That might be right. Or actually, I think that might be true with Wonder Woman.
Okay.
It may have been rumored there was a Flash game then, and then it turned out to be that.
Okay.
I'm not sure. And also, if the Wonder Woman thing has been going for a while, is that the current Gal Gadot incarnation of Wonder Woman, which I assume is not part of the new James Gunn-verse?
That's the thing, is I think they're recasting a lot of those characters, and I don't think they've specified exactly which ones beyond Henry Cavill.
Oh, is it not just we're wiping the entire slate clean? Or
I think they are, but there are some things that there's the Ezra Miller Flash movie that is still threatening to come out.
Gosh, talk about fraught situations.
Yeah.
Wait, gosh, I am so bad with DC stuff. Is Black Adam in the new stuff?
Yes. Well, what do you mean by? I mean, it just came out.
Is he in the new DC universe?
No.
Okay.
No.
So
very explicitly not.
That was a whole thing. I mean, that movie bombed, at least by The Rock starring vehicle standards, and it seemed like The Rock maybe didn't take it super well.
Oh.
I don't know.
Like pouty?
Like Alex probably, I mean, you're probably...
The hierarchy of the DC universe was not altered in any meaningful way, except to say we're not doing any more of these.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
There was a whole weird thing there. Didn't he put out kind of a slightly defensive sounding statement about his time with that movie or something?
Yes, yeah, there's definitely, he definitely had a lot of investment in that thing, and it clearly did not work out.
Yeah.
Where did we see him in the gym? Oh, was that the Game Awards?
Summer Games.
Or Summer Games?
Yeah, that was
Summer Games.
His energy drink.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
All right.
What a thing.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
That's enough about cinematic universes. Oh, wait.
What's...
Nope. Never enough.
How does a Tomb Raider cinematic universe strike you?
Yeah,
Speaking of things they've tried a couple of times and did not quite pan out.
Third time's a charm, right?
Well... This is, Hollywood Reporter saying that Amazon... So I believe it was the TV show that has been known, correct?
Yes, though that thing has been kicking around for a while.
I guess Phoebe Waller-Bridge is making it.
Yes, the Fleabag creator.
I had forgotten that was happening, but I think that's been floating around. Anyway, Hollywood Reporter is reporting that Amazon also wants to make a new game and a new feature film in conjunction with that TV show and basically get a whole kind of Tomb Raider cinematic universe going.
Mm-hmm.
And they describe this as a rights deal. But Games Radar, is basically just reporting what a podcast called Fellowship of Fans has said, which straight up says that Embracer Group sold the Tomb Raider rights to Amazon as part of this.
Interesting.
Hollywood Reporter is not reporting that.
But it's...
Okay.
That podcast apparently has had a pretty good track record of reporting other leaks about other Amazon properties.
But it's unclear if it's movie rights or the whole kit and caboodle, right?
This just sounds flatly like the whole property. I don't know.
I thought the Games Radar story was like it's just not clear yet what they're talking about.
Well, this suggests that that Amazon has purchased the rights to the whole Tomb Raider IP.
Yeah, like they just straight up own it.
Which again, who knows? But anyway, thoughts on?
I just don't have any. Is the thing, like, it's Tomb Raider. The Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider movies were successful but bad. The Alicia Vikander Tomb Raider movie was barely successful and also not very good. I don't know that I have any real investment in them continuing to try to do things in this arena.
Yeah, I just like I don't think anybody has tried to create like a Marvel style cinematic universe on the strength of a single character, right?
No.
Like Marvel and DC both have, like a freaking almost century of a bajillion characters and stories. So I don't know. Maybe everything doesn't need to be a cinematic universe.
No.
If it truly is, and again, I think it's not clear exactly what was sold here. The game rights, like, what is Amazon going to do?
Well,
with
Amazon's publishing the next Tomb Raider game is the thing.
But but development wise, I guess you just farm it out to someone else.
Probably.
Well, Embracer was. I mean, they were. It came along with the stuff that Embracer bought from Square Enix, right?
Yes, including Crystal Dynamics, but
yeah.
They're pitching in on other stuff at this point. It's unclear if they would make another Tomb Raider game or not. They didn't even make the last one. I believe that was Eidos Montreal.
That is correct.
I don't know. I mean, like I could see like kind of an Indiana Jones-esque like fun adventure sort of vibe that could generate like continuing stories and stuff. But
yeah, I'm telling you, just got to get away from the games. Like just like branch out and do a thing that doesn't have to be super referential to the games. Give her 2 pistols, have her do a backflip once in a while, but like
put a T-Rex in there, but like not too big. And then you want to save the like a medium Rex.
Yeah, I don't know. Sure. Yes. Sure. Why not? Why not? Run up a side of a pyramid. And then jump off the top.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked that new trilogy of Tomb Raider games, like the second one in particular, but the third one felt like it was kind of running out of steam, so I'm not sure where that franchise goes next.
I'm trying to think what is out there that is like Tomb Raider that's serialized now. I mean, obviously you guys mentioned Indiana Jones is the template of, it's the proto Tomb Raider, but like, is there anybody else doing serialized like treasure hunting shenanigans that's fictional?
Arguably Uncharted, but Naughty Dog seems extremely done with Uncharted unless Sony decides to farm that out.
And I think that movie did well, but I don't know if it did well for them enough to do another one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tom Holland also seemed like he did not really enjoy making that movie, so.
Yeah. All right. Well.
And then, the actual Indiana Jones game is still in the works as well, presumably.
It's Machine Games, right?
Yeah.
And so is that, for some reason, godforsaken new movie, right? Like bringing ancient Indiana Jones back.
Yes, there is one more in Indiana Jones movie with Harrison Ford on the way.
Yeah,
he loves Indiana Jones, right? It's like his favorite character.
He does. He hates Star Wars, but he loves Indiana Jones.
But also, I think he's very ready for Indiana Jones to be done, and he's very adamant that absolutely no one can take over for him once that happens.
Sure. I mean, they tried that once with Shia LaBeouf, and look how that went.
Yes.
Of course, you can't blame him for not wanting to give it another try.
All right. Yeah, let's move on to our last thing here.
Okay, that Xbox Developer Direct happened, as we said. That's where Hi-Fi Rush came from. A few other tidbits out of there that we should mention. Mostly release dates.
Yes.
Xbox is putting out games.
They are.
It turns out. We got specific dates for Minecraft Legends, which is April 18th.
Not far away.
And Redfall, which is May 2nd. Those are weirdly close together. It's like barely 2 weeks apart. But hey, games coming out from Microsoft, from Xbox first party.
Hell yeah.
I mean, kind of. Technically a Bethesda game and a Mojang game, but
they bought it, they own it.
Yeah.
True.
Also, had they said this before? Forza is coming out this year, confirmed.
They had been in like, that was the indication, was when it would be coming.
Okay. So they are saying pretty explicitly it'll be out this year. There's a new Elder Scrolls Online expansion coming in June.
Necrom.
If you're into that sort of thing. But they showed these games.
Mm-hmm.
Minecraft Legends looks potentially like it could be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to seeing how that turns out. It seems to be some kind of like fairly madcap looking action RTS sort of thing. It's got like a 4v4 online mode.
Yeah.
Where you're straight up like building buildings that generate units, and it seems like there might be a high level of strategy in there that could be pretty awesome. It also looks kind of ridiculous. But you're straight up like assaulting buildings and trying to like knock down castle walls to get in and building a forward base to try to overwhelm and siege them and stuff like that. It sounds neat.
Yeah, it does. I got excited after I saw it and was like, oh man, this would be fun to play with the kids and stuff. But I don't think there's any local co-op in this. I think it's all online co-op. So that's a little. It worked for Grounded. Like it was, if it's Microsoft, letting me play on the PC and a console around, that might work out. But yeah, it seems neat. Kids were still like Microsoft or Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any story multiplayer at all. Reading the description, that was not super clear from all the presentation was almost entirely about the multiplayer, like the PvP.
PvP, yeah.
I don't know that you can even play any kind of co-op in the story. That might just be single player only from the sound of this.
That would be a bummer too. I want narrative co-op.
Yeah. Also, I'm significantly more interested in Redfall after that presentation.
What turned you, like, what clicked with you?
That it's open world, which I don't think they had said prior. That very much seemed like
what they did say.
They've shown some gameplay demos, but not a ton about structural stuff. It very much seemed like a just like Left 4 Dead style load into a mission and kill vampires and then you're done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just straight up a big island. It's like an open island for you to roam around and do stuff on. From like scripted encounters to just straight up dynamic stuff that just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had Harvey Smith on there talking about it and just made it sound like more arcane than I was expecting. Like he straight up was just like, hey, this is the biggest environment we've ever built for a game. You can approach these things in multiple ways. Like that's the tagline, right? That's the Arcane tagline is like, hey, this is designed so you can play it how you want. Just the notion that it's big and open and you can like roam around and get into vampire shit.
Mm-hmm.
Are there werewolves? Can you also get into werewolf shit?
I don't know if there were actual. I think it's
I've
mostly
never
vampires.
seen a werewolf,
yeah,
mostly vampires. I think.
Though those vampires, let's be real, they are kind of like the Left 4 Dead enemies, at least in some of the design choices they seem to have made.
It looks neat. Yeah, it looks much neater than I thought prior to this.
Yeah, it definitely got walked a little bit away from the 4-player jump into a map and kind of get to the end of the map with 3 objectives.
Yeah,
right. Like the idea you can just get in there with your friends and just roam around and do stuff.
It could be neat. I think I still have a couple more questions in terms of how that works out. If somebody initiates something, do you pull them in and all of that stuff? So, but hey, listen, we're gonna find out in a couple of months. It's February now. That game is gonna come out. I mean, you don't put a date on it at this point, right? Unless that's gonna hit May.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's already been delayed multiple times. And then when Starfield is going to do anything, who knows? I mean, they said Starfield would not be at this event. They had already been saying they were doing a standalone presentation for that sometime soon.
Yeah.
Maybe we get a release date at that?
Ooh, that seems ambitious.
Or maybe it's getting delayed again. I don't know. Jedi Survivor just got delayed by, I think, 6 weeks.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, 6 weeks is not a big delay.
No, that's we need a little more polish time delay, not a this thing has not come together yet. We need an open-ended. I don't know.
Small, like lowercase s or lowercase p problems, not uppercase p problems.
I think I've said this before. I will not be shocked if Starfield becomes a holiday game.
It seems like it should be, is the thing.
I mean, it's certainly big enough. It certainly is like enough of a marquee release that it seems like the thing you hang your hat on as a platform holder at the end of the year. But also just the nature of the delay last year when they couldn't even like say, hey, it'll be out in March or June. Like, you know.
Yeah.
It may have been in enough of a state that they don't know for sure. Or they really need more time.
Does it have a date?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Like I think they were saying
like summer
by June.
Okay.
And the language may have even been like this fiscal year or something. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, once it's already slipped into this calendar year, what is another 4 or 5 months so that it becomes a November game again?
Yeah. Especially if Microsoft doesn't have anything else lined up for that in that slot. You know, maybe Forza winds up being in that slot. Cause
it sounds like Forza will be an end-of-year game most likely, but presumably like Perfect Dark and Everwild and whatever the Coalition is doing, you know, like the other kind of heavy hitters in their stable probably are not going to see the light of day this year.
If it does wind up being holiday, I could definitely see that date getting announced at their pseudo E3 thing.
Yeah. And also, between the amount of money they spent on Bethesda and the issues with Halo Infinite, I'm sure there is a tremendous amount of pressure to get the next big release from Xbox like all the way right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. For sure. I wonder if we get resolution, tangential. I wonder if we get resolution this year on the Blizzard Activision stuff with Microsoft. I mean, I can't go past this year, right?
No, it has to close by June or they...
Oh, it's forfeit?
The deal is, I don't know what the term is, but they're back to square one.
I wonder if that thing blows up at this point.
I don't know.
I'm so curious.
I bet it still happens.
You do? You think it goes through?
Yeah. That's my personal bet.
Yes, if I had to place a bet, I would also guess that it will go through.
This will be an interesting year in video games for sure.
They always are.
We're kicking it off February. Interesting times for video games. We got a lot of games we talked about this week. That's going to do it for the news. We've got an email address. The email address is podcast@nextlander.com. That's podcast@nextlander.com. We're going to skip the emails for this week. We're running a little long here.
We had a lot to talk about.
A lot of video games to talk about. Those video games were... Well, they're still out there. Mm-hmm. Hi-Fi Rush, Season, A Letter to the Future, Dead Space, Hitman, the Freelancer mode, Forspoken, GoldenEye, Kingdom Rush, SpongeBob, and Like a Dragon, Ishin. That's going to do it for this week's show. Oof. There's a lot of stuff to play, you guys.
Yeah.
Well, not to get ahead of the Planorama, but looking at February, you might have some more time to catch up on those games you're playing right now.
At least a couple of weeks, I think.
That's all right by me. It's plenty of stuff to catch up on there. I wonder if Kerbal makes it out in February.
I never want to bet on Kerbal.
Yeah, probably.
I passed on putting this in the news, but there was some very loose, and I mean, like, I think looking at eShop, like website code type loose.
Okay.
Evidence that they might be about to reopen pre-orders for that Advance Wars remake.
Oh, all right.
Interesting.
So
it's
again, who knows? But there's some suggestion that might end up coming out in the not so far future.
There's always Star Wars Grogu Tamagotchi. We'll always have that.
It's true. There is always that.
I want to thank everybody for listening and joining us here. We can't do this without you. We can't do this without your support. You can, of course, go over to patreon.com/Nextlander to check out even more Nextlander goodies over there. And you can go over there to support us and keep us moving well into the release of Starfield, whenever that is. Who knows? Mm-hmm. With your support, we can go and be there for Starfield's launch, whether it's 2023 or beyond. Patreon.com/Nextlander. We've got the Watchcast going on there. We just recorded our episode for Virtuosity.
Yeah, we did.
Virtuosity. That'll be up next week. We wrapped up, if you were waiting for it, we wrapped up Star Trek, the original season 1, if you wanted to listen to that in its entirety. Again, the Watchcast is where we watch the movie, then talk about our impressions of the movie, and you can find it over there on the Patreon. And there's also a free feed. It's just a week behind, but you can catch that where you catch this, the Watchcast. We've got Never Been a Better podcast recording next week. I believe that's Dan Reichert and Abby Russell will be joining us. That's the plan to record next week. So that'll be going up at the end of that week. You can go catch previous episodes again over at patreon.com/Nextlander with a bunch of other stuff, including the Ramblecast. But there is one tier and one tier only on the Patreon.
One tier only.
The silly. One tier only on the Patreon that gets their names read on this here show, and that's the Mysterious Benefactor tier. And I am going to proudly read those names out this week. Beginning with RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Kelly F., James Smith, Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Brad's Midsize Voodoo Doo-Doo, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, JM, Jerry Lee, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, John McKinnish, # Bunny Crimes, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Razgriz2, Brian Murphy, Trevor and Adrian R, Kevin Villado, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It's Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. Thanks again to them, and thanks to everyone who has supported Nextlander over the year and a half. Is that safe to say? Year and a half?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, way past.
What is time?
Dude, it's almost 2.
Whoa! Over the last 2 years, couldn't be here without you. You can watch our stuff over on our Twitch channel. You can watch our archives over on the YouTube or on the Twitch channel. I think the Twitch one they delete after a while, but you can go over YouTube, Twitch, and again over on the Patreon. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Like I said, we've had the Watchcast up currently. We had on Monday, we went in. Oh my gosh! Wait, let me go over the recap first, and then I'm going to say this thing. Monday, we got into some Freelancer mode on Hitman. Alex and I did. We're going to have our grab bag on Thursday. And then Friday, we're coming in with another Friday fun stream. Alex Navarro, what do you have queued up for Friday?
I think we're going to watch some dumb videos that we talked about doing during the old Patron's Choice. Yeah, you guys really seem to want to watch that hour-long Leonard Nimoy Y2K survival guide, so we're definitely going to do that.
Great. Fantastic. I look forward to at least checking it out. I don't know if we'll make it through the whole thing, but is it riveting?
Look, we got to fill a 2-hour stream, man.
That's great. There's always more Hitman Freelancer.
That's true.
The thing I was going to mention was apparently a Breakout 13's Part 2 is releasing
out
soon.
Like in a week.
So keep an eye out for that. I am so curious if you didn't catch our Breakout 13 stream. It's an FMV game. I think we did 3
with
parts.
Some panache is what I would say.
3 parts, 2 parts. Anyway, it ended on a cliffhanger. No, I'm saying our stream was 3 parts.
Whoa. Oh, okay.
I couldn't remember.
That was 2.
2? Okay. It was fun. So I look forward to getting into that. That's going to do it for this week's show. Again, thanks everybody. Welcome to February. Be good out there. Hope you're enjoying some games. I mean, there's always games, but now there's games and games.
Now there's always more gameser.
Oh, Kirby is barking. The game.
He's like, end that podcast and feed me.
Oh, it's Kirby. Kirby wants to see Breakout 13 soon.
Kirby, the game alarm's going off. It's Kirby's game alarm. Yeah, maybe next week we'll see it. All right, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Brad. We'll be back next week with more video games. See ya.